Well, good evening. Or rather, it would be if you were the Swindon Town bank manager and Town was still in the FA Cup. Sadly, once again, Ben Carner and Charlton Athletic will just have to wait. But does it really matter, though? Well, a club the size of Swindon Town shouldn't really be toiling in League Two. And with the self-sustainability and cloth cutting just as relevant now as it has ever been, is the world's most prestigious domestic competition now just a massive distraction in a world that has finance increasingly distracting the eyes of managers and players up and down the leagues? In short, should we allow ourselves the luxury of distraction, glorious as last season may be, and the risk of damaging the more lucrative payday of promotion from League Two? Well, the nature of Saturday's defeat for many suggested not. We didn't run enough, according to a clearly embarrassed Scott Lindsay, whose team selection certainly pointed to a manager giving it a thoroughly good go. Well, we're going to be talking about that a little bit later. We've got a load of guests coming on. We've got Paul Caddis coming on, talk about his daughter's fight against type 1 diabetes and his incredible fundraising efforts. We're going to be ducking in and out of this cup debate. So tonight, it's going to be about analysing the psyche of the modern day lower league pro when it comes to domestic cups, and picking through the bones of contrasting knockout fortunes over the weekend are, as I mentioned, two-time league winning captain Paul Caddis, Sir Tom Broadbent, and the inimitable Charlie Austin, who are all going to join us across the span of our show. We're also going to be discussing a new supporters club initiative launching as we remember our fallen heroes of the armed forces on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. And we very much are chuffed to be joined by the man that's going to be driving this initiative, the crafty general himself, Darren Crook. But that's not all. We'll be discussing Messrs Dworzak, Fox and Massey, who have all temporarily departed the parish and are already catching the eye at their loan clubs. And with the subject of the FA Cup still very much front of mind, we're going to be tipping our hat to another couple of loanees, arguably closer to the first team picture, but still pulling up trees and slaying imps just down the M4 at Chippenham. And last but not least, there is, of course, the small matter of a freaking Town player at the World Cup finals. Well in Johnny Williams, but more of that to come. But listen, I'll introduce the panel first and foremost, and I'll try and do this in the order they appear on my screen. No pecking order or favouritism here, ladies and gentlemen. Joe Vincent. Joe, good evening. How are you?
Good evening, mate. I'm happy to be the first read out and the favourite, clearly.
Yes, apple on the table upon departure. Make it shiny. Chris, the man that puts no in Northerner, how are you?
Very good, but I'm surely more favourite than Joe.
Gabs, how are you, mate? Good evening.
Evening. Well, I'll always be your favourite Nigerian one. We know that.
You will as soon as you burst into song, and I want plenty of that later. Everyone's favourite Doncaster Rovers fan, Max Springer, how are you?
I'm all right, mate. I've just about dried off from that soggy away end on Saturday.
Yes, wasn't it soggy? I'll tell you, that must... well, it was miserable enough for me, mate, sat at home. My heart was bleeding for you guys. Absolutely bleeding. And I am delighted to introduce, for his debut on the show, the crafty general himself, Darren Crook. How are you, Darren?
I'm really well, Hannes. Thank you very much. It's a delight to be with you, and really grateful for the invite. Thank you.
No, you're very, very welcome. And Darren, I'm sure you'll be over the moon for me to introduce your favourite son of shirt sponsorships, Sir Tom himself. Sir Tom Broadbent, we are not worthy. How are you?
All right, guys. How are we doing?
Yeah, very well, mate. We
Hello,
were all
Darren.
the better.
Hey, Tom, how are you? All right?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, really well, thanks.
Good.
Tom, we were all the better for seeing your beautiful face smashing up the BBC at the weekend. How was that for you?
Enjoyable. I enjoyed it. It's a shame about the result. I felt we deserved something from the game, to be honest with you, especially with the second half performance. But we're just lacking that goal scorer at the minute, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, you literally gave the most incredible account of yourselves. I mean, you pushed a very, very handy League One side all the way, and it was magic of the FA Cup. Call it what you will, Tommy. It's exciting times at South Shields for you guys, isn't it? You can see that the investment is putting a very, very handy side together where you're playing your football these days, and certainly you were no pushovers.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's a shame. Obviously, we lost our game last night as well in the league. One of them games where we dominate the ball and just can't seem to score a goal off it. Like I say, we're just lacking someone who'll just put it in the fucking net for us. Do you know what I mean? It's frustrating.
And yet, and the irony, of course, is that you've got Kevin Phillips as your manager, who was never a stranger to putting the ball in the back of the net.
I know, it's mad, isn't it? It's mad. Maybe he needs to get his boots back on, doesn't he?
Maybe he does, mate, to be fair. Or, more to the point, Sir Tom, what about you having a little stint up top? Because you certainly did that in the latter stages of the weekend. You still got it, buddy, haven't you?
Oh, I know. We'll see. You never know. There might be a time for that this year. Hopefully we don't need it. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'd like to have a little go up there. I think I've got goals in me, especially at that level. So we'll see.
Well, look, Tom. Obviously, it's really, given your former career in His Majesty's Armed Forces, it's timely that I kind of get Darren to come back on. Tom, we're going to be having a chat with you, Tom, about obviously the psyche of the modern day lower league pro in relation to the FA Cup, and obviously your story, given it's your more recent career twist, has got a very, very interesting layer for us to peel back. But yeah. Darren, you've been a busy boy in the background, much to my delight. A wonderful new logo has popped up, affiliated to the official supporters club, and a fantastic story attached to it as well that really did resonate with me. So, obviously, Darren, I've invited you on. The stage is yours, mate. I would love you to bring your tweet from earlier today and yesterday to life, if you will, sir.
Well, I'll give it a good go, and you've set me up nicely, haven't you? So let's hope I don't disappoint. So I think there are a number of us who, through social media, have been able to connect through the history of, or our shared history of serving in the armed forces. And those that have served, and in whatever service that people have served, you will recognise that there's an element of camaraderie, set of values. There are things that just connect you. And of course, what goes on in football is that we're connected through our football clubs as well. And it creates connections that I think many of us have valued over I'm certainly getting on a bit, so over a series of decades. And I think what we recognise now is that for some folk, it's a little bit more difficult to make some of those connections despite social media. And so we wanted to find a way of bringing people together, connecting on that shared understanding, and hence why, again, across those various decades of linking people together, veterans and those that have served and are serving, and in part so that they have a way of connecting and making their match days a little bit more enjoyable because they can share it with like-minded people. I know I, for one, have travelled around the country watching Swindon and gone on my own, which is brilliant fun. You get to see some of the old faces and some of the newer faces, and you make connections. But we thought there was a chance to formalise some of that, and particularly with the football club very much focused on the community, how could we link into that? So it's been in the making for a while, and we thought that this weekend was a great time to launch it. So Andy, Hannah and Chris have been brilliant in helping on that. And of course, Rob's been super supportive as well. And what we're seeing this weekend is a real connection on that. So that's what we're trying to do. The logo, so thanks to Chris for working that up with us and the graphic designer. But we've got the Royal Navy sort of hearts of oak, the Royal Navy blue on the inside, the red of Swindon and the red of the British Army across the middle. We've often been known as the thin red line. It's a bit of a thicker banner now. And then the light RAF blue around the outside, representing that bit of top cover that we've been lucky enough to have from the RAF over the years. So that's what we're trying to do, pull it all together. Connect people, shared camaraderie, shared values, shared beliefs, and that shared enjoyment of football. It's the soldiers' game. Tom knows that. I know that. Soldiers love it, and as they do sailors and aviators as well. So it's trying to bring people together behind the football club. A win for the fan, a win for the supporters club, and a win for the football club.
So Darren, on a practical level, if you're either a member of the armed forces or you've got a family member that is, or you're listening tonight and you want to get involved, what sort of practical tips, practical steers can you give the audience in terms of engaging with what it is you're doing?
Yeah, that's a great hook. So thank you. So we see this evolving is the truth of it. So it's a start that we can launch from. We certainly see it being, we want to maintain that close affiliation with the official supporters club and that membership base, because that creates control. So getting in touch with the supporters club, making it clear that you have this connection with the armed forces, that enables us to clearly protect the data, which is so important. But have a way of connecting people through that. So things like end of season dinners, we'll be able to put a table together, various functions, try to pull things together around that, formalise that. And then again, we've got a couple of volunteers up in North. Lee Deacon is one of those. Deeks has volunteered to help coordinate some of this for us up north. So if we're travelling somewhere, we can say this is our meeting point. We'll get together there and people can meet with like-minded souls.
What a tremendous initiative. I mean, Chris, I'll bring you in at this stage as somebody that sort of grew up under the umbrella of the army with your family. That's this must be music to your ears, but unfortunately, if you're about 30 years too late.
Oh, it's very much great. It's like I was born in London, with my dad was an air dispatcher in what was then the RCT, and many years later retired as lieutenant colonel in what became the RLC. And it's great. I've still got family down there in Watton Bassett who were also former RCT, and they enjoy going to the football, and things like this is something that we can really add to them and their friends and things like that.
And Tom, I'll bring you back in at this stage, Tom. I mean, a player's perspective, if you will, this must be really heartwarming for you as well. Someone that served this country, but obviously is now serving the fans as well. I mean, this pretty much squares the circle for you, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, it's nice to see lots of the armed forces obviously getting together, coming to watch the games and things like that. It's definitely a good thing that you're doing there, Darren. Definitely.
Last time I was involved with the armed forces was at Wembley for the Millwall playoff, Darren, and I'll never forget tossing my Swindon scarf to a bleary-eyed squaddy as he walked along in front of me, only to have him throw it back and start chanting Millwall back at me. So I want to avoid a repeat of that, but hey, listen, I'm sure he doesn't represent all of the armed forces, of course. Misguided blue and white fool that he must have been. But look, I mean, Darren, please hang around with us. I mean, is there anything else you'd like to say in relation to this? I mean, naturally, myself, I've grown up in both with a family of uniform and wearing one for a career. I just wanted to echo what I'm sure everyone else is thinking. What an absolutely fantastic initiative. Long overdue. Just hats off to you, Darren. And as soon as you can get as soon as you guys can get some merch up and running, I'm sure it's going to absolutely fly out, and it'd be nothing more than we'd like then to swell your division of what you're doing with the OSC's coffers somewhat. Is there anything you would like to say to sort of round it off, Darren?
Well, I think you've just hooked into something there which is worth saying. I mean, we absolutely cherish and value diversity. This is about inclusion, so it's not about trying to exclude anybody from anything. So it's about bringing people together, making those connections. So if there are people who have connections and aren't serving and are veterans, but they want to be part of it, there are going to be clearly the values that we cherish, and we will expect, quite rightly, the behaviour that's associated with the armed forces, because we're representing people. But of course, it's that inclusion. So if you've got a family connection, you want to be part of it and come and have a chat with us, then please do. Join the club. Clearly we want to stay connected with the official supporters club to get, as you say, merchandise and all the opportunities that come with it. So we want to be together with people, but please, don't feel excluded from anything. Reach out. And we can have a chat. I mean, that's the key part of it. It's bringing people together, whether it's having a pint of Guinness or a Coca-Cola. People or other brands are available, of course. We'll
be having a Guinness.
Brilliant. But this is about connecting people and cherishing something that's valuable. And again, if it means that people, her game too is really important. We've seen with women's football in the army, it's flourishing. It is in the nation. There are so many opportunities, and that's what we want to get after, make it inclusive. Well, so thanks, Hammers.
No. You're more than welcome. I mean, listen, please do take it as both sincere and take it as read that we're fully behind you. We'll remain behind you. Just keep us looped in everything you're doing, and we'll throw as much of our clout behind what you're doing as we can, whenever we can. And we'd like to see you a little bit more on our panel as well, Darren. You're a wonderful speaker. Thank you ever so much. And please do, like I say, Darren, I appreciate you've had a busy night up in London tonight. But please hang around. We've got a very, very rich debate as I teed up at the start of the show. And Tom, I'm going to bring you back in at this stage because, as you probably gathered by the headlines of the show, I mean, we've got yourself, we've got Caddis, and we've got Charlie joining us across the duration. All of whom have got sort of differing opinions, different insights, got different career experiences of tackling domestic cup competitions. You at the weekend, obviously, you've dropped out of the pro game. I hate to say that, given the kind of riches that are involved. He says in inverted commas in the non-league game these days, but it's so much more professional than it was. So it's not like you're playing park football, but you've dropped down into the non-league pyramid. And on Saturday, you had the honour of picking up a man of the match in front of the BBC cameras. And if there's anyone that was to tell Tom Broadbent that the FA Cup didn't matter, I think they would have got a large Tom Broadbent-sized toe straight up the jacksie. So tell us, I mean, look, Tom, I'll just ask you a question. Does the lower league pro give a monkeys about the FA Cup?
Yeah. Definitely, obviously for clubs lower down the pyramid, it's important. Brings in a lot of revenue for the club, especially, I think South Shield's got about 50 grand or something for it being on the telly. So if you get into the next round as well, it can pay players' wages it can cover wages for the season, really, can't it? So obviously, but for South Shields, it was important more to concentrate on the league. So I think now that we're out the cup, we could concentrate on the league. But then again, I did say that we lost last night, so it's no good, really, was it?
No. But I mean, look, Tom, for you guys, you could see that you were all playing it like a cup final, and I don't mean that to be sort of mean, but you literally, you could tell it was a big deal. Now, I guess the question would be how much of that is about kind of, obviously South Shields have got a big mission at the moment, putting the club on the map. Jeff Thompson, your chairman, very, very ambitious. Kevin Phillips, your manager. Even like yourself, Tom, dropping down at South Shields. You're a big name at South Shields. I was talking to a couple of their fans in the build-up to the game, and they were sort of describing you and your centre-back defensive partner and another, and saying you've basically got one of the best defensive lineups in non-league, and that you were well up for giving Forest Green a shake. So I guess what I'm trying to say was, like, it seemed to be all eyes on for South Shields, whereas obviously you'll be aware that the picture the picture a little further south in Greater Manchester for Swindon Town Football Club wasn't as delectable, shall we say? So hence the reason we're asking the question, Tom, because I think Scott Lindsay obviously put out pretty much his best lineup that he could have fielded on Saturday. But the boys put out a performance that sort of suggested that their eyes were elsewhere.
Yeah, I think always for like a lower league team playing against, like a League One team, being on the telly and things like that, you're going to up your game anyway, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? Like I said to a few of the boys, it felt nice to be involved in like a big game like that again. Some games I'll go to this season where there's about 200 fans. And it's a little bit harder to get up for, but with a game, we had 4,000 there on the TV. It just felt nice to be involved in a big game again, and obviously you end up upping your performance a bit. But no, I think teams. I think we're a little bit unlucky, really, with the fact that Forest Green, they're struggling in the league and things like that at the moment. That they put out like their strongest team possible, whereas you look at other teams in the league who played lower teams. They'll use that as an opportunity to rest players and things like that. Maybe if we'd have played someone else, we might have got through. But I think the gaffer at Forest Green's under a bit of pressure, so he put out a full strength side, and unfortunately we were on the other end of it. But no, I think obviously Swindon. I've not really been keeping an eye on it at the moment. How are you getting on in the league at the minute?
Well, we're doing really well, mate. Truth be known. I mean, look, Joe, over to you. I mean, you should, just for the sake of giving someone another voice and a quality one at that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, skipping past Saturday, I said to Hannah before the show, I didn't watch the game on Saturday. I don't want to watch the highlights. It looks absolutely shit from the outlook. But yeah, the league form's going well, isn't it, lads? I think, we're 2 points off Automatic in fourth or fifth, so can't really moan with any of it, to be fair.
Exactly, that's the important thing as well, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? You want to get promoted again, so
Oh, yeah,
that.
100%. But it's also a case of, like, obviously we had City last year in the FA Cup, got on telly, we had a full ground, atmosphere was buzzing, and that properly did help the club out, I think. So it's like, it's kind of, there's two sides of the penny, isn't there? You can either just sack it off and, focus on the league. Then also, as you mentioned earlier on as well, it's a big payday for clubs if you get certain draws.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly. That's the thing. If you get far in the cup, you get good days like you had against Man City. But ultimately, I think the main focus is getting out of League Two, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wasn't at the game on Saturday. I was actually at Sutton watching one of your old sides, Farnborough, get through to the second round. So that was pretty good.
Yeah, they're doing all right, aren't they, this year?
Yeah. I think they've won 7 of the last 8. So yeah, the local teams.
Don't get him started on Farnborough, Tom. We'll literally be talking Hampshire football all bloody week.
The locals.
Here's a question for you. So in the dressing room, I mean, I know I'm not going to ask you to speak on behalf of obviously Swindon Town, but have you ever been in a dressing room, or have you got a view on whether or not it would be a spoken truth that the boys didn't really care about Saturday? Is that the sort of thing that pros would keep to themselves if they do end up just getting I mean, you've only got to look at some of the cup results. It's not just a Swindon Town issue from the weekend, but if you look across the piece, there's always somebody that gets a really uncharacteristic thumping. So if you ever had a suspicion that actually all eyes were on the league, is that something that would be spoken about in the dressing room, or would they all be kind of party line?
No, I think what it is, you want to win every game that you play, but obviously when you're playing against a lower league team, you kind of maybe go out with the attitude that it's going to be easier than it is, and then you become a bit unstuck, really. And it's like I said earlier, sometimes it's harder to get up for games that aren't as big. Do you know what I mean? And you go out there and think you'll roll teams over, and then you'll get your arse handed to you. Do you know what I mean? So it's a bit difficult getting up for games like that.
Yeah.
You've got to look at Plymouth, haven't you? Plymouth got, was it 5-1 on Saturday to Grimsby? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no one saw that coming.
And then, all right then, Tom. So talking about the interdivisional piece then, I mean, there's a really good example. Plymouth who are doing fantastically well, and Grimsby who are kind of a bit meh this season, but then there's an absolute spanking at the weekend. What is that a fitness thing? Is that just a culture shock thing? Is that just catching them cold? Is there is there the psychology of the tunnel? I like to go back to the old school stories. I mean, the '88 Wimbledon team were obviously fabled for their tricks in the dressing room and getting in people's heads, and the tricks with the changing rooms and stuff like that. Is all that stuff still going on, Tom? And is that sort of responsible for some of these quirky results?
I don't think that stuff goes on as much anymore. But like I say, I think Plymouth rested a lot of players as well. They're fully focused on the league. Do you know what I mean? That he probably thought it's an opportunity to rest some of his key men and get them fresh for the league game, which obviously they're flying at the top of the table at the moment, aren't they? Mm-hmm. And they'd like to think that the players that are coming in can do the job as well, but sometimes they ain't played for a few games. Might play a little bit of a different system, and it just happens sometimes, and it's a bit of a shock, but it's football, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, indeed it is. So, I mean, all right then. Look, Max, you were there. Give us your hot take from the stand, mate. I mean, I'm sure some of the conversations that we're having so far, some of the questions I'm posing to Tom are chiming with you, having got thoroughly wet, thoroughly cold, and then obviously had to endure what you had to endure. So, talk us through it, mate.
Yeah, I think the main thing I took away from the game is from the first whistle, they pressed the hell out of us. Like, they definitely seemed I don't want to say more up for it than us because I don't want to say that we went up for it, but I think they just had a certain intensity about it that we just couldn't cope with. I think Khan gets booked within 30 seconds, which nullifies half of his game. I mean, he was unlucky. He was lucky not to get sent off, to be fair. So they completely overran us in midfield through it. I don't think the weather played a factor. The only thing the weather played a factor in was the fact that it was hard to get an atmosphere going. I don't think it was hard to get anything going in the stands. The fans were sort of split in two halves, and yeah, it was pissing it down pretty much the entire game. Like you say, it was a strong, and they made 7 changes. So it's Stockport, the ones that really that you could argue from the kickoff, think, oh, they're not taking this seriously. They're resting a bunch of players, but I know their right wing back, Macaulay Southern-Hales, who came in, run us ragged the whole game.
Sorry, buddy, that really was the kind of perverse thing, wasn't it, about the weekend? That, of the two teams, the team that got a spanking was the team that pretty much put their first choice 11 out, whereas Stockport, you could have argued, were going a little bit more experimental. So, yeah.
Well, I was in the pub. Before the game with one of my good friends who's a Stockport fan, and as soon as the lineups came out, he thought, we've basically put our reserve. He said to me, we've put our reserve team here, basically. I mean, they had both their main strikers out. They had half of their midfield out. They had their third choice keeper in, and they go and do that to us.
Yeah, nightmare. I mean, is it? I don't know, Tom. I'll sort of put this back to you. Like, give us the sort of view that you would have had in the dressing room then if you were like Swindon on Saturday. We've got pretty much our entire first team out, and then their lineup goes up, and it is full of potentially what they would have. I'm sure our lads recognise as their stiffs. What are the conversations that had? Like, how difficult must it be to just sort of like keep tuned in to, like, obviously it's still 11v11 and all of that jazz. Like, what? How does the psychology work?
I don't think that really plays that much of a part in it, to be honest, mate. I mean, you might look at, for me personally, I'd look at who they put up top and think, oh, wicked, like, he's not playing decent. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're resting their main man. But at the end of the day, like, Stockport's still a good side. Do you know what I mean? They're big budget as well. There's like reserve players will still be decent players. Do you know what I mean? It's still 11v11. It's not going to play that much of a part in it.
Especially you couldn't tell. You couldn't tell it was there. You couldn't tell it was like they made that many changes. They were quality from the keeper to the front lads.
And don't forget, like them players coming in will have a point to prove to the gaffer as well that they should be playing. Do you know what I mean? So that's the thing. They'll be a lot more up for it anyway. But then, like you say, it affects everyone differently. Like, some players might look at it and be like, oh, they're playing their reserves. Yeah, we're going to walk all over them. Do you know what I mean? But it shouldn't. But some people it does.
Does it make it difficult, Tom, when you're preparing in the week, obviously, and training and stuff? I'm assuming you'll pick out, or the gaff will pick out, sort of their main threats and where their dangers come from in transition. If they've got a bunch of like players out on the field that you've not prepared for, as a player, is that a bit of a like, if you get a team sheet through, you go, oh fuck, we have not seen any of these players in the week. We've not really watched them. We've not prepared, like, especially for these lads.
Yeah, sometimes it could, because you could be, working on certain things for the way that they're going to play, or, say if they're playing a big target man and all they do is hit it up to him and try and play off him, and then they're playing someone completely different, which changes the style of their play. You could be working on that all week, and then they're not even going to play like that. Do you know what I mean? So it can affect it, definitely.
What, Tom? What? So let's almost like flip the scenario on its head. Obviously, the lads would have trudged back to the changing room at the end of the game, 4-0 thumping, away from home, cold, wet, miserable. They know that they're in for an absolute barrage of abuse on social media. No doubt that's going through their minds. How do the guys go? I mean, again, just given the circumstances that they've made 7 changes. We've pretty much got the strongest team we could possibly put out there. So you've got some big egos, I'm guessing, that are, they've all won their shirts. They're all like on top of their game. They've just gubbed Mansfield the week before away from home. That's quite a humbling experience. How do the boys go about picking up the pieces?
Don't look on social media. That's one way. but no, obviously, like they'll have when. Did they have a game last night?
Oh, what, our boys?
Yeah.
No.
No, see, that's even worse. You'd like the next game to be sort of straight away. Do you know what I mean? So you can put things right. But obviously they've got a week to sort of dwell on that now. But you'd like to think that the gaff would have them in, work on the things that went wrong, get them all fresh for Saturday, and then the only thing you can do is just put it right the next week, and you have to just almost try and forget about that performance, and put it right on Saturday.
So, I mean, as an individual player, you're in. I guess if you haven't been called back in on Sunday because you were that bad, you're in sort of like early doors on Monday. What sort of things are going through your head? You say, I don't mean to say it's a cliche, Tom, but like for example, I can mention 2 or 3 of the players that came out with that. We'll put it right next week, and actually, I really do believe them because I think the league table speaks volumes. But what does that mean to them on a practical level? Like, what will they actually be doing on the Monday? Will they be like literally busting their ass, or do they? Is it a psychological thing, or how do they go about putting it right in the build up to the next game?
It'll be a bit of both, mate. But I'm sure they'll have analysis on the Monday. It'll be horrible for the lads that have maybe made mistakes or something like that to watch it back. That's horrible. I've been there, but. Yeah, they'll be watching back, seeing what they should have done better. They'll watch their own individual clips, and then they'll go and obviously the manager will have them working on certain things that they need to improve on for the next game. But it'll be more specific to the next opponent, really. But yeah, it's more about psychologically putting that behind you and concentrating on the next game to make sure you don't make the same errors.
How much, Tom, how much does it when you've got a week between games? Does a bad performance like that stew on your mind?
It's definitely when you go in on the Monday. It's not a good it's not a good atmosphere around the place. Do you know what I mean? But then everyone around you, you pick each other up because it's no good dwelling on that. Do you know what I mean? You've got plenty more games in the season, and you need to just work hard on the training pitch to make sure that you don't get embarrassed again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So is there the potential as well for the next game that you might come out too quickly, too aggressive, and get caught out at the back?
No, I don't think so. Like I say, they'll work on specific things for that game. The manager will obviously approach it. Maybe it'll be because it'll be a different opponent. There'll be certain things that you tweak, and by Friday's come, you have pretty much forgotten about the last game because you have to, and just concentrate on the next one.
I think a way you can look at it as well. I mean, this could be quite a good thing. Like, obviously, we've been on a really good run recently in the league. Like, this might maybe just bring the boys back down to earth a little bit. I know Scott Lindsay said in his presser, didn't he, that maybe some of the boys started believing their own hype. I'm not saying we needed to get tonked, and trust me, I believe, if we could have avoided it, I'd bite your hand off. But maybe sometimes it might just be quite a good thing. It's not affected us in the league at the end of the day. It's not the end of the world. I'm also kind of glad that it was a horrible day. Like, it was absolutely hammering down. Obviously, I'm not glad for Max.
Yeah, it wasn't good for me.
Sorry, mate. But I mean, like, we get tonked on the pitch, but then it's also that the boys are soaking wet. They're probably freezing. That's a proper Groundhog Day.
Yeah, definitely. And you think it humbles you a bit. You could be getting carried away with your performances, get complacent. And then, like you say, you've been beat 4-0, but it doesn't affect your position in the league. And you can think, fucking hell, I don't want that happening in the league. So, yeah, you're gonna approach the game differently and make sure whatever happened don't happen again.
Yeah, I mean, for a young side as well, we're a young team, so like I say, you got to just take it as a learn. Really, it's just add it to experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Tom, I've got a kind of real world question to ask you from your time at Swindon Town. Obviously, I guess probably with more of an eye on the Richie Wellens here. We never really did fantastically well in the cups under Richie. Was it a lot of the stuff I guess we touched on sort of applies to that Richie era? Did you ever get a sense that? I mean, Richie was quite open about sort of being very league focused, but did you ever get a sense from the gaffer that yeah, look, boys, this is a nice to have as opposed to get out there and win this game?
Yeah, I think Richie was obviously he wanted to win every game anyway, but he would rest certain players in cup games and things like that as well. I don't think any manager ever really says to the lads, "Look, we don't really care about this cup." Even if you've sort of got an inkling that he does feel like that, like they'll definitely make you aware that that's not how they feel. Do you know what I mean? In the dressing room before the game.
Yeah.
So when I was there, he never really mentioned about, yeah, look, we're not bothered about this cup.
It's such a. I mean, for me, Tom, I think I sort of reflect on the last 15 years of our club just not doing very well in cups at all. Whereas I reflect on sort of, previous eras where it just felt like, the sheen of the cup was far more alluring than it is these days. And I think just like I was saying about, I believe the lads because I look at the league table and the league table doesn't lie. Equally, I look at our cup record and I do tend to believe that sort of historically, I don't know what it is, but I can't help but think that, the last 15 years, we as a club know that we need to get out of this bottom division or these bottom two divisions and try and get us back in the championship. And the size of our squads, maybe the bigger financial gain of getting promotion, that to me kind of feels like, I don't know, it's just, I don't know whether it's, I don't believe that anyone is being told, right, this doesn't matter. But I just can't help but think, like, in their heads, it's like, why are we trying in a tournament we're never going to win? And I think that's prevalent across football these days. Unless you're either non-league and you're trying to make a name for yourselves, as you guys did so brilliantly at the weekend, or indeed, you're a Premier League club and actually you're not going to, you want to pop, but you're not going to win you're never going to win the Premier League. And I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense, mate. Like I said, like for South Shields, it's good for us to have a nice cup run. It's good for, income for the club. But obviously with Swindon, the priority is to get promoted. At the level they're at the moment, they're never going to win the FA Cup. The financial gain for it getting a bit higher isn't, getting promoted outweighs that. So the main focus should be getting promoted. Yeah. So why wouldn't you rest, players or not take it as serious as you would league games?
Also, as well with that, Tom, look, going into that game on Saturday as well, we had probably 3 of our first choice 4 defenders out. Does that play on your mind that you need to probably do you play a bit more tense knowing that you're this is your chance to stake a claim?
Yeah, obviously they'll go out there and think, I can, if I do well here, I can keep the shirt, I can play in the league and things like that. But obviously, well, it didn't work. but no, like you say, it happened to me quite a lot at Swindon. I was out the team at times and I'd only play in the cup games and I'd come in and think, right, I've got to fucking do well. Yeah, of course it plays on you thinking, right, this is the chance that I'm going to get. I've got to take it. And unfortunately for whoever played, they've been beat 4-0. So the gaffer's just going to go, right, well, I'm going to change it back to the team that I had. So it's it's one of them, mate. It's the joys of football, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Well, all right. Well, look, go. We'll allow you a few more minutes of fame, Sir Tom. First, talk us through some of your virtuoso activities on the telly at the weekend. For a start, talk me through the volley. You were very, very close, mate, with that dipping right foot rasper.
Oh, no, mate. Honestly, like I was wheeling away thinking, yes, it's in here. Tell you what, if that landed on my left, it's a different story. But I just tried to guide it in. Do you know what I mean? I didn't try and put too much power. I just thought, right, side foot, try and hit the target.
Yeah.
But it's just gone past the post. But that would have been a nice one, wouldn't it? That would have put it 1-1. But then we'd have probably have to travel down to Forest Green for a replay, and then probably got spanked. So.
Like I said, I mean, I'm not so sure. You guys played some lovely football. You're obviously, ultimately, you were still in the game until Connor Wickham does what a player of his sort of standard, you would expect him. He's got that in the locker. But I mean, what was your vantage point of that, mate, when he unleashed it? Whereabouts were you on the pitch, and did you know it was in as soon as it left his foot?
I was up front at that point. But no, that's the thing. That's the difference in the quality, isn't it? Like say, we've kept him quiet pretty much all game. He's not done anything, and he's scored 2 goals. He's had 2 chances and scored 2 goals. And that's like I say, that's like what we need up top. But then if we've got a player like that, he's not going to be playing in our league, is he?
No.
So no, that's the difference between it, mate. Like I say, I think we more than matched them, especially in the second half, and if we'd have put our chances away, we could have caused an upset, but it wasn't to be, was it?
No, it wasn't. Well, who have you got? Well, I know you said you lost last night, Tom. Who have you got the weekend?
I don't know, to be honest with you, mate.
Oh, that's poor form.
No, they said who we've got, and I forgot because I don't really know the names of the teams around here, to be honest. But I think they're bottom of the league, so we'll be expected to win. Hopefully, we've got some goals in us on Saturday. It's at home anyway, so our form's generally good at home, even though we've lost the last 2 games. But we don't consider like we've got the best defensive record in the league, but we just can't score.
Did you say
we scored?
Were you sort of like polishing your nails as you did that on your breast there, Tom?
Yeah, I was just having best defensive record in the league, mate. I'll just say it again, but like I say, we just need goals in the team. I think we scored 15 goals in 13 games in the league. I think we've conceded like 7 or something. I think, is it 13 games? I don't know how many I'm sure someone said we've scored 15 goals in 13 games.
Yeah, you need to get that average up to get promoted.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think that's the thing that's holding us back at the minute. But if we can get scoring some goals, I think we'll be fine. We'll get promoted. We're definitely good enough to win promotion, but we just need that confidence in the team. With some goals.
You're home to Belper, who are bottom of the league.
There you go.
Thanks
I was close.
Pause for that.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I knew they were bottom of the league. I just didn't know the name.
So at that level, question from me, at that level, how do you go about preparing for games then? Do you just focus more on yourself, or are there like video footages you watch?
Yeah, obviously we've got analysis guys, but as you can imagine, there's not a lot of footage that we watch, but they'll give us like that, their main threats. They'll tell us how they generally play. But really we're more focused on us and how we play. Because obviously we're better than most teams in the league. If we do what we know we can do right, we'll win the game. But it'll just be telling us certain threats to their teams. If they've got tricky wingers or a target man or things like that. But yeah, generally we'll concentrate on ourselves.
Well, a couple of things then, Tom. Firstly, we'll all be lumping on you to score at the weekend. You watch, you'll end up romping a load now. You said you're a little bit goal shy.
Yeah.
And secondly, have a word with the club shop, mate. South Shield shirts are only available up to medium, I believe. You've got a whole show dedicated to your good self, mate. Make sure that they're aware of that.
There's no way Tom wears a medium.
No, I don't wear a medium.
Absolute unit.
And Tom, to settle an argument, did you score that second goal against Oxford, or did Tyler?
I did.
Yeah.
That goes without saying, Chris.
Yeah.
I think I did.
Everyone knows that.
There, it's not going in anyway, is it? Let's face it. The keeper's just picking it up.
Yeah.
All right, Tom. Well, listen, mate, as always, you're more than welcome to hang around. You're more than welcome to disappear off, mate. It's an absolute treat catching up with you, as always.
Thanks for having me again. Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Very welcome. Listen, we'll as we are still intending to try and get this away day sorted out up at South Shields. We're obviously it's been complicated a little bit. We should have done it before Christmas, but rail strikes have scuppered us and a few logistical challenges. But we will certainly be seeing you up at South Shields before the season's out. So make sure they roll out the red carpet. We'll be marching up to see you soon.
Yeah, that would be great, mate. Just let us know, mate. We'll have a few beers after.
That sounds good for me, and I'm sure it sounds good for Darren as well, who is, of course, still listening in. Darren, before Tom disappears off, anything you want to say?
Just great to listen into you, Tom. We are immensely proud of everything you've done. both in your career, outside of football, and as a human being as well. Super, super proud of you. And there's no doubt that Isabella will be super excited to know that we've both been on this together. So
Bless her.
all the very best. She loves you dearly, and you're a great role model to so many. So thanks
No,
very
I
much,
appreciate
mate.
that, Darren, and I appreciate all your support as always, mate.
No,
Appreciate
got
it.
it. Yeah,
We'll have
brilliant.
to catch up soon as well.
It sounds like we're going to have a couple of beers, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Keep in touch.
Yeah,
Here
we'll
we
do.
Care.
We'll do.
Thank you.
Aaron. I can't. Tom, listen, we're unbelievably proud of you, mate, as a supporter base. I think everybody, it's so good to have got you on so close, to November the 11th for obvious reasons. You're, I think, yes, of course, we'll always have Oxford, Tom, and that secures your footballing legend. But as a personality, mate, I think you're so relatable, and we're also incredibly proud to have a lad that served our country wear our football shirt as well. So yes, mate. Listen, we there's more to the Sir Tom Broadbent Lounge being named after you than just a goal in Oxford, pal. And I assure you, we will not, irrespective of pressure from a certain Frenchman, we will not be changing the name of the show.
Not a chance, mate. Not a chance. No, as always, thanks for having me, and I appreciate all your support. Thank you.
You're very welcome, pal. Take care.
Thanks, mate. Take care, guys. See you later.
All right, mate.
Bye. Bye.
Oh, ladies and
What a
gentlemen.
man.
Yeah, Sir Tom. We say it every time he comes on. What
Legend, absolute legend.
Yeah,
Always good to have him on.
Yeah, he's brilliant. He's brilliant fun, brilliant value. I mean, if I cast my mind back to when I was a nipper and I started supporting the football club, and then when I moved on to become a beer swilling student, if you had told me at some stage I would be stood in the town then with a guy that scored the winner against Oxford in such dramatic circumstances, whilst also being found the host of a show on Twitter Spaces named after said individual, and be able to genuinely say he is, without a shadow of a doubt, the nicest guy you could possibly wish to meet. I mean, he literally is. He is a dream. I still think I need to maybe go and bump his missus off and hopefully see him one day come home hand in hand with one of my daughters, because that would just square the circle perfectly, wouldn't it? But anyway, listen. So look, I mean, quite a lot to pick over there. And Chris, I'll bring you back in because you've been doing a huge amount of work for us this week, in between your day job, of picking through the statistics of Swindon Town's cup performance, or performances or lack of over the years. And I mean, listen, let's just make sure we caveat this conversation. Nobody is kind of pointing the finger at anybody at Swindon Town Football Club this season going, there's not a single soul here that just didn't care. I think what we're trying to do is just try and get under the skin of the psyche of a lower league footballer when they're going into these competitions, because I think quite a lot of us have got questions as to quite frankly, whether it does matter when you've got a focus that is, look, we just got to get our asses, in our case, out of this godforsaken league. Because the thing is, Chris, what I wanted to say, and I didn't quite get a chance to say it to Tom, not even like all is forgiven. Like if we end up humping Tranmere at the county ground on Saturday, the FA Cup's a distant memory, isn't it? And I guess that's both a good thing and indeed a really sad thing for someone that's got the best part of 40 years worth of football supporting under his belt.
It is, and it's a tough thing as well, because look, I mean, last season was a great example. We had a good league season, and that cup run. I mean, what did that Man City do to the town, to the community, to all the fans? It was just such a great game, and now we've got just knocked out the first round, so no chance of that. What would it have been like to sort of rejuvenate people, get a few more on the gates, get a few more going to away games, if we'd had a cup run and got another big team again?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, but I think the point still stands, though, Chris. If let's say, for argument's sake, we roll Tranmere, let's say 3-0 at the county ground on Saturday, we memories of the FA Cup are going to be pretty quickly forgotten, aren't they?
Oh, they are. If you give me the option, do we beat Stockport or do we beat Tranmere? We beat Tranmere. League's our bread and butter, and league is where the focus is. And I think that's, if we're going to get beat 4-0, I'd rather it have been in the cup than in the league.
Yeah, I make you right. Well, listen, I'll introduce a man who's often had the league as his focus, so much so that he picked up the bloody trophy twice. Paul Caddis, good evening. How are you?
How we doing? You all right? Sorry for the croaky voice and the late arrival.
Mate, don't you worry. You listen, you're a man with an awful lot on his plate at the moment. You're the last person in the world that needs to be apologising for a croaky voice.
Yeah, cheers.
Well, look, do you want the good news or the bad news, Paul?
Go on, give me some good news. I could be doing it. I've just been walloped for Blackpool.
The good news is you've managed to avoid Brody.
Oh, great news.
The bad news is you've got to talk to us.
It's no problem at all.
Hey, listen, Paul. Putting all the fun and games to one side. There's obviously a serious reason why I asked you to primarily come on tonight, and I know that the topic of conversation that we've been having with Brody we will come back to, but I just want to make sure that we spend ample time having a focus on your daughter's story, because you really did, hand on heart, Paul, stop me in my tracks. You and I keep in pretty regular contact, it's fair to say.
Yeah.
And you always strike me as, I mean, obviously I appreciate family is a private thing, but some of the stuff that you've been going through, you've gone very, very public on in the last couple of weeks. And when you broke that story to me, I think the reason it stopped me in my tracks, Paul, is that you're like, I think, and I'm going to speak for most of our fans here, you're like an ever present in our lives, and you have been for quite a long period. You know, anybody that consumes football the way that obviously we do as football fans, you just sort of, I don't know, you sort of lose sight of the fact, Paul, when you've achieved what you've achieved, you lose sight of the fact that you're actually just a human being with human being challenges. You know, you've got a family, this, that, and the other. You know, to many people, you say Paul Caddis, and it immediately conjures the two images that you're really, really fan. And I've tweeted them this week. You know, you standing there, obviously, unfortunately, down sort of in reverse order after the COVID lockdown, holding the trophy.
Yeah. And
then a fantastic picture of you strutting across the pitch towards the Don Rodgers with the trophy above your head, screaming your head off. I mean, so I don't know. It just reminded me, mate, that you're just a bloody good human being. But you're really having your trials, aren't you, pal? So I just wanted to step off the stage now and sort of just let. I was hoping you could bring your story to life for us and the audience, and give everyone a flavour as to what you've been going through.
Yeah, listen, thanks for that nice introduction. Just 3-4 weeks ago, my daughter wasn't feeling well. We had her. She was still at school and stuff like that, but she was coming out of school really. The best way to describe it was depressed looking. She had lost her personality. She had lost her character. Constantly tired, but it was difficult to try and understand what was wrong with her, because she had no symptoms of any flu, or she wasn't burning up. And listen, all parents do it. The first thing you go to is Calpol. So I thought, give her a bit of Calpol, she'll be all right. She'll brighten up. Calpol's always the magic trick. Yeah. But this went on for 3, 4, 5 days, and my wife decided to take her to the doctors. The best way of describing it was I sat her down one day and I was like, listen, be honest. I understand that they've been talking about SATs and stuff like that at school, and she's quite a clever girl, and she always wants to try and make us proud, and I was like, are you worried about it? If you are, it's fine. It's a long time away. And I thought it was just kind of getting to that stage where she was starting to understand a little bit more about life, and she was getting older, but she's like, no, promise, Dad, it's nothing to do with that. I just don't know what's wrong. I just feel tired all the time. I feel weak. So we went to the doctors. They had said we could take some blood, but come back in a week, which in hindsight was terrible advice. And the consultant said that himself. It was terrible advice. All they had to do was a finger prick. But anyway, so that was the Tuesday. We got to Friday morning. She had not improved one bit. She had 3 days off school. Listen, to go back on it, my daughter's had 100% attendance record for the past 3 years at school. She never misses school. She's quite sporty. She likes doing all dance. She'll do the gymnastics. She does all the after school shows. She is fit and healthy, and that hurts me to say. Like, she's not unfit or not healthy anymore. She is still fit and healthy now. But so that was just the background on her. I don't have any background of diabetes in my family. So yeah, it got to the stage where we decided Friday morning. My wife's like, called me and said, I'm going to take her back. We need to get some bloods done. So they took a finger prick test, and a normal human being's blood sugar levels should be between 4 and 7. And my daughter's was up at 25 plus, which was obviously dangerously high, but the biggest issue was her ketones. Ketones are they should sit at neutral, they should sit at 0, but the body can accept it if it sits between 0 and 0.6. But she was upwards of 11.5.
Wow.
So it was like very dangerous, and I was at work at the time preparing a session for the under 17s at night, and my wife had called me saying they've just told me that they want to get her in blue lights ambulance. I was like, what? And obviously straight away I'm just being the way I was and the way I was brought up. I was like, oh, don't worry about it. I think they're overreacting. But no, sure enough, I got myself to the hospital, and within half an hour of being in there, you could see. Listen, the staff were brilliant, the nurses and the doctors and that, but you could see they were worried. So straight away, in no uncertain terms, bang, straight on a drip, straight on monitors, hooked up to everything. No, I've not got a clue what's going on. My daughter's not got a clue what's going on. And for me, and obviously yourself and everybody that's listening, and I know Charlie's got kids as well, it's seeing your daughter lying in a bed and not having answers for her, not being able to help us, the hardest thing I have ever witnessed in my life. I've been relegated in football. I've lost my job at football. I've sat and watched games in the stand, and I've had bad days, but that is the worst because it's your daughter. You're helpless, and you're meant to be your daughter's hero. You're meant to be the one you look up to. You always want to have the answers for your kids, and I didn't have any answers. I had nothing. She was asking me what's going on, and I could only ask the nurses. And at that moment in time, she spent 3 days in high dependency. So she had 24-hour care for 3 days, constant. So I was just trying to relay to the doctors what's going on, but they're that busy trying to like bring her back into like a healthy state that they're explaining stuff. You know, it's like when, well, I don't know, hopefully no one knows what it's like, but if you're in the hospital, they start throwing you all these big fancy words. It's in one ear and out the next because you're just focused on your daughter lying in that bed. And yeah, listen, as I said, it was the hardest time of my life. I've got another younger daughter who's also getting upset because she's seen her big sister lying in the bed with everything hooked up, monitors on, blood taken out. In one night she had 74 finger pricks. So
Yep.
just to see that on her fingers were a mess, to the state that they ended up having to go to start pricking her heel to get blood out her heel. And every time they were taking blood, they were taking like 3 samples at a time, so they were testing for everything. And so she went into something called diabetic ketoacidosis, which is acid in the blood. So what that does is it starts to attack the pancreas. It starts to attack the vital organs in your body, and it starts with the pancreas. And once it starts attacking the pancreas will start pushing it away, and then it'll go and attack the lungs, and then it'll go and attack the kidneys. And it's life-threatening. You can die if it's not sorted like ASAP. So we never quite realised that dangerous way she was until probably 5-6 days after she'd finally calmed down. We finally had spoke to the consultants that we were living with type 1 diabetes, but we had one of the head diabetic team come and actually explain what went on those first 3 days, and it was, to be honest, it was terrifying, absolutely terrifying to go from, as I said, I was trying to do a passing drill. I was trying to organise a passing drill and a possession drill in a session from under 16s and then under 17s. Then 45 minutes later, my daughter's lying in a so-called deathbed, and it was horrible, absolutely horrible. But listen, she's fit now, she's healthy. We're trying to deal with it as best as we possibly can. We will deal with it. We're nice and positive about it. I'll be honest, I was very, very ignorant to what diabetes was. I thought it was simply jag yourself, get on with life. It's not like that. Just to give you a bit of context, this morning, 2:30 in the morning, she's lying at the top of the bed with an apple juice, 3 fruit gums and a digestive biscuits because her sugar levels are far too low. Something that we can't deal with. It's not our fault. It's not her fault. It's just, it can be something simple as she slept 5 minutes later than she did the previous night. previous night. She might have had a tougher day at school. She might have been really excited on her iPad. It can be absolutely anything. There's so many reasons and so many questions that can't be answered of why bloods are high and bloods are low. So try to come to terms with that. It's difficult, but listen, there's worse people in life. We've just got to get on with it. But when it's your daughter, it hits you at home more than anything.
Paul, like seriously, I'm like, I've read countless sort of text messages from you and backwards and forwards that you and I have been having over the last week or so, mate. And hearing you speak about it is something else, mate, to be totally frank. I think what really shines through, though, Paul, is she's a very, very lucky girl, your daughter, because obviously amazing parents who have sort of seen and known your daughter well enough to know that you need to get her to hospital, but just listening to the determination in your voice, yes, this is here, but we are going to deal with it. I don't think there's an individual that's seen you out on a football pitch, mate, that knows and will be able to reassure your daughter that those are absolutely, not that she'll need that reassurance, but I hope you take that in the spirit it's intended. She's got all the backing she needs, mate, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, listen, as I said, I try and stay as positive as I possibly can. I've got a wife and 2 girls, so I'm this so-called man of the house. But I'll be honest, it was a Friday night. She went in. My wife stayed with her. There was only one parent, as the normal happens. And I remember going home late the Friday night into the Saturday morning. It was just me and my youngest, and my youngest was sleeping in beside me, and she'd managed to go to sleep, and it was just, it hit me hard. I'll be honest. I was emotional. I was angry. I was sad. I was everything you could possibly think of. And there was a point where I was getting pissed off at Summer. I was like, why are you doing this? And just my emotions were all over the place. Like, I wasn't, not physically to her, I just mean to myself. Like, it was just, listen, it was a roller coaster, horrendous 3 days, but she's still here to live another day, and she's dealing with it well, very well. She's probably dealing with it too well. I said that to my wife last night. Listen, don't forget, she's really mature. She's a credit to herself, to be honest. Whereas my other one's an absolute lunatic, she's the complete opposite. But my oldest is very mature. As I said, she's dealing with it really well. But we know there will be difficult times, and there has been a couple. Like, for instance, tonight there was a little bit of not feeling sorry for herself, and I've told her a million times, if she feels sorry for herself, it's fine. Don't, like, she'll then come out of it and say she's sorry, and we're now recognising when her bloods are really high, because she does something that she's never done. She brings on this attitude. She'll start answering back, and it's difficult for us as parents to try and let that go, but at the same time understand why it's happening. So, like, I don't know who's living with wife and other girls in the house, but they'll just go back and forth, and I'm the one that's like, right, listen, just calm down. We understand why she's doing it. My wife's getting annoyed because she's starting to get a bit of attitude, and so it's just try to control everything, and try to control the diet, try to control the carbs. My wife got a bit pissed off today, a bit upset because she'd phoned me, and just small things. And I'm not blaming the school for this. She was at school today, and she had a visit, a special guest visitor or something. I can't remember exactly the story, but everyone got cookies, chocolate cookies, but they wouldn't give my daughter one because they didn't know what her bloods were at, and she checked her bloods, they might have been too high, and we don't want her ever to feel as if she is completely different and she's got to miss out. So that's probably a discussion that we have to have with the school later on in life. But listen, there'll be times where that will happen. There'll be times where we've been told from the consultant, we've got to try and prepare her mentally as much as physically, because there is a lot of mental battles with it. Why is my blood so high? Why am I getting pissed off for nothing? Why am I getting emotional for nothing? So just trying to deal with that alone is difficult, but we're getting there.
Oh, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? She's obviously edging into her teenage years. I mean, for most parents, I mean, I've got a house full of teenage females at the moment, and I can assure you, as a 45-year-old male, it's a very, very disorientating process for me to be going through at the moment. So I guess to be dad of a 10-year-old that's going through all of this, and obviously at the same time she's edging towards her sort of teenage years. So many. All of my girls growing up, they just want to kind of fade into the background and not stick out. So
Yeah.
Everything you're saying, like Paul, resonates, but that extra complexity and fear. I mean, it just must be very, very disorientating for you. I mean, to anyone that's listening, Paul, over the last sort of 3 weeks, is there any sort of, any tips that you would give people, or anyone that's going through something similar to you, that you've been through? Any sort of signposting or any sort of little magic tips that you've picked up that might be useful for someone else?
Yeah, well, on diabetes alone, there's signs of it. Urinating a lot more than what they normally would. Tummy aches, that can be a sign of that the pancreas is starting to get attacked. Listen, I don't want people getting all worried and thinking, no, my kid's got a tummy ache, they've got diabetes. Not like that. I just mean that's signs to look out for. The biggest one for us was loss of personality, loss of character. Really, really down in the dumps. But at that moment in time, we obviously didn't know what was going on. So stuff like that. But listen, stay positive. And that's very, very easy for me to say because, as I said, late Friday night, Saturday morning, I genuinely, hand on heart, thought I was losing my daughter, and that is the worst feeling I have ever had. I didn't want to leave the hospital, but I also understood that I had another daughter to protect. I had to try and not false pretend with her, but make sure she was still upbeat. She didn't get all upset. She didn't think that I didn't want her to know the state that her sister was in, because they're really close. Listen, we're a close family. We've moved away 12 years ago from home. We've never had anyone else round about a support network as in family or that. We've got a really close family, but what I mean is that they stay 200-300 miles away. So we've all grew up in the same space. I know all families do, but our constant space. So I just wanted her to know that she'll be all right, she'll be fine. Try to be as normal as we possibly can for my youngest. But yeah, we're all good now. Listen, we're all good. We are dealing with it. We're looking forward to Christmas. We're looking forward to the consultant. That's another one. The consultant's been amazing. He's been really understanding my summer. He's been on terms with her, and he'll say to her, let diabetes live with you, don't you live with diabetes. Like, we had already booked Harry Potter World well in advance, 3-4 months in advance, and it was like, go to Harry Potter World, go and get the chocolate, go out trick or treating, go and have the chocolate, go and have the sweets, go and have the crisps. Let diabetes deal with your lifestyle, don't you deal with diabetes. And we're trying to drill that into her. So it was refreshing that she came out the hospital so she went on the Friday, she came out the following Wednesday, and we went to Harry Potter World the following Thursday. So that was refreshing for her to think, do you know what, I'm normal, I can do this. We went and we tried the butter beer and all that stuff. She got the chocolates, she got the TGIs beforehand. But all we have to do now is everything must be planned. So right now, just to give you an idea, for breakfast she's on every 12 carbs, she has to have 1 unit of insulin. For lunch, she's every 15 carbs, 1 unit of insulin. For dinner, every 12. So breakfast and dinner, she's 12 carbs for every unit of insulin. And for supper and lunch, she's 15. So just trying to work out. We're constantly looking at the back of food packets. We're constantly looking the things like, it's carbs only, obviously. So the amount of things that's got carbs in it is ridiculous. Like, you can't have a meal without carbs almost these days. Like, she loves that was the thing, like, she struggled with, because she thought that she couldn't eat carbs or eat too many. She loves pasta. She's very, very fussy. She eats all dry food. She loves pasta. She loves garlic bread. She loves rice, just everything dry and plain. So just trying to deal with that. And there's been moments where she's like she'll wake up this morning, she's like, oh, I don't want breakfast. And I'll be like, why do you not want breakfast? You normally have breakfast. Oh, but my bloods are a little bit high and I don't want to have Rice Krispies because they'll shoot them up. And it's like, no, wait a minute, let's have Rice Krispies, then deal with everything else that comes with it. Like, still live your life. So as I say, there is moments where it's difficult because she'll go into that zone where it's like, no, I don't want it because I'm worried that this will happen and that will happen, and I'm still trying to find the right things to say, the right answers, the right options for her. But we're all learning. We're learning on the job, so to speak, and that's the most difficult thing. We're almost playing trial and error with our daughter's body, but it is what's got to happen at the moment.
Well, look, I mean, Paul, you've responded in a way that I could only imagine our skipper responding, and you've decided to raise funds for type 1 diabetes research in quite a spectacular way, haven't you?
Yeah, so I've decided to do the 3 peak challenge. It'll be Ben Nevis in Scotland, Scafell Pike in England, and Snowdon, the 3 mountains. I'll be honest, Hannah, that I probably didn't do enough research into it, and now I've dived into it, I'm thinking, oh shit. But no, I'm looking forward to it. I've got a good team behind me. I've got a lot of backing and a lot of support. So just trying to raise the awareness of diabetes and the research. And the research right now is unbelievable. The technology is unbelievable. But the consultant who worked at the hospital that we're at in Blackpool was part of a small group that were looking into something else, and he genuinely believes, maybe not in my lifetime, but in my daughter's lifetime, there might be a cure or close to a cure to diabetes. So it's just trying to work towards that and help fund that and help go towards the research. And there's a Diabetes UK, there's another JDRF, I think they're called, there's another private research company with parents and stuff like that. So there's loads of options there, and I'll be honest, I've not quite made my mind up exactly what they'll probably split between the two, but they'll definitely be going to research.
Well, look, Paul, what's obviously you are raising funds. You've already raised a fair old slug of cash, haven't you? Do you want to tell the listeners where they can go to help contribute to your fundraiser?
Yeah, so it's the GoFundMe page. It's in fact probably the quickest ways via my Twitter, Paul Caddis Elite Coaching. There's links on there. There's the GoFundMe page as well. If you go straight on the GoFundMe page, just type in Paul Caddis and it should come up. But listen, every little helps, and I don't mean that financially. I mean sharing posts and stuff like that. I'm not a huge social media fan, so I don't mind it, to be honest, but I'm not huge on it. I'm not great with it, but I'm trying to do my best and getting stuff up and try to raise awareness and try to raise some money. And so yeah, listen, the response has been unbelievable. The support, the love from everyone, especially listen, 2 clubs that I've got. Swindon, obviously, I've got a great relationship with. Birmingham as well, have been brilliant. So both sets of supporters in particular, and the clubs and the people connected, have been nothing but supportive.
Well, someone else who I know will be very supportive has just jumped on. How are you, Charlie?
I'm all right, mate. You?
Yeah, very well. A nice little reunion for you and Cads. When's the last time you spoke to Cads? Was it the game in the summer?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, that'd be the last time.
Yeah, it's a while ago. Yeah. I didn't play that game in the summer. It might have been QPR, wasn't it?
QPR game would have been the last time, I think, something like that.
Yeah,
mate,
probably
you
was.
Going to the 3 peaks, mate. Doing it for a great cause, of course, but mate, that's meant to be hard graft, you know.
Oh,
can I just butt in here? Sorry, I done the 3 peaks, I think 3 months ago, and honestly, it's brutal. Not to scare you or anything. But
Ellis, we're meant to be coaching, man. We're meant to be like raising funds, and you go.
I know the fact that you're doing it, it says a lot. Like, and anybody at home, if you've got any spare change that you can sort of donate, because even climbing one of the mountains on their own is an achievement in themselves, but to say you've done all 3 in 24 hours is a massive achievement, and I think the fact that you're doing it for charity as well, so props to you. Yeah.
Fancy doing it again?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I'm more than happy to.
You're not convincing anyone there, Ellis. You're convincing nobody there.
Just shit himself. Yeah, well, honestly, it's such a good experience, and having it in your mind that you're doing it for a great cause as well, it's only going to push you on.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and it's not impossible. It's not impossible.
Not if you've made out there, mate.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, if the dates work, we're all doing it.
100%. I'll be more than happy to do it again.
Perfect. The more the merrier, especially when I'm lying and my halfway up needing help for a helicopter.
We'll all struggle
Is
together.
there a restaurant?
Luckily for you, Hannah's owns a helicopter.
Ah, come on. Not on my past salaries, pal. Hey, but listen. So Charlie, obviously it's been a while since you've seen Caddis. It's brilliant having you both on at the same time. First, Charlie, you've had another eventful weekend, haven't you?
Yeah, I did. We beat Sydney 3-1. Which was quite good. We needed to win before the break, so we're on a break now for 5 weeks for the World Cup. So, which is a bit strange. Like everyone's going to feel it, but everyone in the Championship and the Premier League, etc., are going to feel it. But League One, League Two will continue. So that's a bit strange with the break. But no, we had a good win, 1-3-1. I scored, which was nice again. And listen, we just try and build and see where we go. Just see where we go, see what happens.
Well, yeah, congrats on that, Charlie. Cads, whilst we've been talking, thank you, Darren Crook. Darren's just retweeted the link to Cad's GoFundMe page. So if everyone goes to the Crafty General, so that's at dcrook70, you will find the link, and obviously go via Cad's Twitter space as well, and you will find links on his bio.
Cads,
so please,
when I get off, when we get off this, I'll chuck it on mine.
Top man, thanks, mate. Appreciate
no
that.
Worries, buddy. No worries.
Amazing stuff. Well, look, Charlie, Cads, I've got you both together. The topic of discussion tonight, and we had Brody on earlier who gave us a view. So obviously Tom played at the weekend for South Shields. He got on the BBC, put in a man of the match performance, and South Shields gave a really good account of themselves against League One opposition in Forest Green. Connor Wickham won the goal. I'm sure you've both seen it. It was only really what saw South Shields off, and it very much could have gone the other way. But the question that we're posing tonight really is, we're trying to get into the psyche of like the lower league footballer, and to what extent the FA Cup is a priority or is being taken seriously by them. Because obviously Swindon Town at the weekend were going great guns in the league, but the nature of the performance on Saturday was such that it left a lot of people asking questions, and we weren't the only ones. Like it's been pointed out, obviously Plymouth got absolutely humped as well. So we're pulling on the three of yours experience. Obviously Tom gave us experience of the Richard era, and then dropping down into non-league, and then sort of obviously the importance changes for them, putting South Shields on the map. Cads, obviously you were there, part of Richie Wellens era as well, and you've got experience of cup defeats and victories at other clubs. And Charlie, you've obviously got the same experience right the way through the leagues up into the Prem. So to what extent does the cups matter? Like, what, are lower league pros really bothered? And I don't know who wants to go first.
Go on, Cap.
I'll go first. Charlie's the he can talk about the Prem days. For lower league, for me it was always about getting through the early rounds, because you always want a big team. You always want a Premier League team, whether it's at home or away. So the first couple of rounds for me as a player, and when I was at Swindon, to be under the Canny, we beat Wigan at home. We then got Leicester away. So occasions like that, I think the first couple of rounds can be very difficult. I think a lot of people underestimate it. Going away to non-league teams is difficult. It's very difficult. I remember going away to, I think we got Crawley in the cup one year.
Yeah,
it was difficult.
We did,
didn't we? Yeah, so we did actually. In fact, I missed it. I had
we drew one all at their place. Yeah, they beat us 3-2 at home. Didn't it? It was snowing.
Yeah, I missed both. I remember that actually. Yeah,
I remember very, very well, gentlemen, because Charlie, I remember Matt Tubbs was being the most patronising sod on the telly towards you, and you had a face that looked like you wanted to buff him into Rose Ed.
What about that?
Cads.
Jesus.
Listen, I agree with what Cads is saying. I've been fortunate to be on both sides of it. And you need to remember, so's Cads when he was obviously at Celtic. That's a completely different kettle of fish. But listen, when you're there, them early rounds, because you have the non-league teams that get into the FA Cup, a great achievement. But then they want the third round because the glories of what comes with it. In the Football League, you have the League Two and the League One teams that obviously want to get to the third round. They want to get that big tie, like Cad said, whether it's home or away. but they are tough games, regardless of what you think or anything. They are tough games. And listen, I know it doesn't look great. They lost 4-0 at the weekend. The performance probably was very under par for what they've produced over the last few weeks. However, I almost feel like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you win on Saturday, yes, you get through to the next round, and it's great, and you can have a little bit of a cup run. I understand that with the fortunes with Man City coming last year. But if you get through, and you've got to hope you get a good side, you could get through 2 rounds, and then still in the 3rd round, you could just play someone that's in the league above and then be knocked out. And it's almost like, oh, we've got another game. I know it's easy saying that because Town lost against Stockport, but ultimately, what is the biggest thing? I understand the cup is the big financial thing if it happens, but getting out of League Two is the main aim. It really is. That's the main aim.
And when you're Charlie, when you're at the cutting edge of kind of pro performance as you boys are, you're playing in the pro game. You've got how we're talking fine margins, right? How difficult can it be to enable to just allow yourself to knock off that extra couple of percent?
Yeah, but you say that it's almost impossible. It really is. Like, you can be not. You can. All right. Sometimes you can't be. You might be like, oh, today in the warm up. Oh, I don't feel great, or whatever. I'll get through it. But that's it. To get to the point of saying you're off it like 3-4%. That's hard. It's hard for a pro just to be able to switch off. I don't know anyone in my career who's just been able to switch off and played with, where it's like we get on. As soon as you go across the white line, it's game on. Whether you're carrying anything or what, you're expected to perform. Now, listen, it's like everybody in the workforce. Not every day you can do your best. Like, you can try and give your best, of course, but it doesn't always happen. But it's just the effort you've got to give. And sometimes you do get thrashed. Sometimes you do get beat 4 or 5-0. There's not a lot you can do about it.
So, Cads, take this back to you. Like, as someone that's obviously skipped our side quite a significant amount of silverware, what a 3-0 down at half time in the dressing room. What's the captain saying to the players?
I think pride comes into it straight away. You're 3-0 down. I think pride, but you also got to remind the lads that the next goal can be vital. So if you score the next goal, you've seen it umpteen times. 3-0 down. Somebody comes out the second half, scores after 50 minutes. You're 3-1 down, and you've got the momentum. You've got the fans get that buzz, the players get the buzz. But the flip side, if you go out there and concede the 4th 50 minutes, you're staying in 40 minutes at trying to keep a respectable scoreline. So there's as Charlie said, it's like you cannot switch off. Like, for professional footballers will give everything they possibly can, but getting beat 4 and 5-0 isn't always, more often than not, isn't down to a lack of effort. It's like, again, I'll go back to what Charlie says, it's like a normal working person, if they go to work, there will be days where they can't be asked, but they won't be any less, they won't give it any less effort. They'll still give 100%, but it's just not quite there on that day.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure, I don't know if either of you two good gentlemen have saw the gaffer's reaction after the game. Fair to say he was pretty livid with what his players have put out. And I mean, obviously the game itself is analysed to the nth degree, and almost immediately the gaffer came out and said, look, obviously we didn't run hard enough, we didn't run enough, that the intensity was lacking, like that. I mean, it's a tough one on Scott Lindsay, isn't it? Because he's got his detractors this season, despite the fact we're sitting 4th or 5th in the league. And I mean, we it's fair to say he's kind of, he's got our show as we've been very much behind Scott Lindsay based on the fact that we are sitting where we are in the league. But I mean, that's a real kick in the nuts for him, isn't it? That result of the weekend in terms of fan perceptions, and another reason for the haters to want to give him another kick in.
It's why we love football, Hannah's, isn't it? Is everyone's got a different opinion. You can't keep everyone happy. And listen, what would you rather do? Would you rather get the semi-final, the quarter-final of the FA Cup, or go straight up in League Two? I think you'd bite your hand to go straight up in League Two than get an unbelievable run in the FA Cup. So I think just looking at the bigger picture, the most important thing for Swindon is to get out of League Two. They shouldn't be in League Two, but the reality is they are. And for me, the biggest picture is getting out of that division.
So I mean, Charlie, we pretty much said that we give Tranmere a good humping at the county ground on Saturday. The FA Cup is quickly forgotten, and I think that's the kind of fickle nature of football fandom, isn't it? Really, at the moment, like everyone's got the right because we seem to have paid very, very little or put very little stock into most arguably the most important domestic cup competition in the world. But at the same time, we beat Tranmere on Saturday.
Yeah, I think the hardest bit is finding that right balance. Listen, if we win Saturday, everything's forgotten. Like Kat says, football's a matter of opinions. Not everybody has the same opinion, and rightly so, because we all see the game completely differently. But if you win Saturday, that's more important than getting through. Listen, like Kat said, you have to put it this way: where do you go? Would you rather play Chelsea at home in the third round of the FA Cup and get beat, or get automatic promotion from League Two? I think every Swindon fan would take automatic promotion, really.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think that's the crux of it. So, well, I mean, listen, gentlemen, it's always an absolute treat to have you both on. Cads, the only other thing that we're going to add about yourself, buddy, is that obviously we've got the small matter of a pint in the pub with Paul, which is something that you and I are going to be organising. The date is still to be advised, but at the moment it's looking like we've got approval that it's going to be in the Legends Lounge at the county ground, and it is going to be before a home game and fingers crossed before Christmas. So keep your eyes open for that, and I guess we'll keep the powder dry, Paul, on the other slightly plan as well that we've got on the back burner. But we might have another nice surprise for people coming up over the next hopefully next couple of weeks.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, looking forward to everything. That we'll obviously not go too much into that other plan, but yeah, the one at the stadium, that really looking forward to it. Always get a lovely welcome when I come back to the club. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
And hopefully, if we rattle the buckets loud enough, we might be able to pay for a flight to get you back over, Charlie, for a certain fundraiser or two.
Well, you just never know what happens. You just don't know what will happen in the future, don't you? Football's a funny old game.
It's a funny old game.
You just don't know.
Oh, you tease.
You can never say You can never say never. You just don't know, do you? Football's a funny old game.
Well, listen, gentlemen, you are more than welcome to hang around. Charlie, I know you're clearly on the move, mate. Are you on your way to training?
No, we got a week off, mate, because they had because we got a game, have we? And then it's international break, so I just done the school run, bud. But I'll get back that particular 2 little man's birthday, so I'll to next week. So I'll get a few presents. But Cads, listen, I wish you all the best, mate. I'll check that film on Twitter for what it's worth.
Top man, mate.
If we don't
Nice
speak,
to speak to
I
you.
want to wish you all the best with a 3-peat challenge, all right, buddy?
Top man. Cheers,
Take
Charlie.
care. Love to the family, mate. All the best. Take care. See
Cheers,
you, chaps. All the best.
Cheers.
See you.
See you guys.
Bye.
See ya.
Yeah, pal. Hey, Cads. Well, it's fair to say, mate, you've got the backing of everyone you need.
Yeah. Listen, Charlie's top guy. He was a top player and a top guy, and somebody that always had the time of day for you as well when he moved on to the big leagues and doesn't forget where he's from. So yeah, nothing but positive words for Charlie.
Hey, Cads. Now we've got him off the line. Have you got a favourite Charlie Austin memory?
Well, I blame Charlie for getting relegated. Now he's off the line. He dislocated his shoulder and ended up with Thomas DeSeve. Charlie was just. I just remember him being able. He could just find the net. He was just a goal scorer, a typical goal scorer. I loved playing with him. I loved crossing the ball. I was brought up to put balls in the box, and he was. And I think he enjoyed that. So we had quite a good relationship the short time that we played with each other.
Cats, what was the reaction in the dressing room when Charlie left? Obviously, that was a massive hammer blow to the season, wasn't it?
Oh, we were gutted, absolutely gutted. As I said, we weren't brilliant, but we weren't miles off it in terms of where we were position wise. But once he left, we never replaced him. Could not replace him. I think we ended up with Thomas DeSeve and big Vinny Pericard. I think was our front two. And
I think Elliot Benyon came in, didn't he?
Yeah, Ben will come in actually. Yeah, Ben will come in. But no, he was a good character. He was popular. He was lively. He was bubbly. He was, and that was just his personality on the pitch. He was a ridiculous finisher, as I said. He worked very, very hard. He was a team player, good guy to have in the dressing room. The upbringing he had clearly helped us as well with that kind of rough edge that he had. He played the game on his heart on the sleeve, so it was a massive blow for us, massive blow.
Do you reckon we stay up if he doesn't go?
100%. I've said that a million times. If Charlie, I know I was taking the piss there and laughing and joking, but if Charlie had stayed that year, we wouldn't have got relegated. He dislocated his shoulder, I think, just before he left, and we struggled. And then I think he was just coming back, but then before we knew it, he was away again. So yeah, definitely. But
the thing that cracks me up, Paul, obviously that relegation season, it was smack bang in the middle of the 442 sponsorship, and I was invited to come up and watch training with Nick Watkins, and I was amazed. Like, Charlie celebrated every goal in training like he did on the pitch. It was that the guy just literally loved scoring goals, no matter what level, what the session was. Just loved that feeling of putting the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's gone now. I genuinely do. I've just left an under-18s game there, and I'm pulling my hair out. It's desire, heart, and it's not even talking about ability. And he had that in abundance, and that's just, he probably grew up quicker than he thought he would have had to, in terms of he probably played with men at the age of 15, 16-year-old and held his own. And by the time he came to Swindon, he was strong, he was physical, he could hold his own, but most importantly, he could put the ball in the bloody back of the net.
I think the biggest thing with Charlie as well, like, obviously he's come through, he's playing at Poole in the Southern Prem at a tender age, if you like, playing with men. He's come into a team as well where he's joining a squad full of, like, Jonathan Douglas, and he's playing up front with Billy Painter. I don't think there's any sort of, that's one of the best pedigrees you've got for a young player, surely, to come through.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he had obviously a decent dressing room as well, as you said. Come into experienced players. David Prutton as well was another one that was there at the time. He was really experienced. So
Gordy Greer as well, I can imagine, was good.
Big Gordy Greer, yeah. The year before I was there, yeah. That year there was quite a lot. There was obviously Si Ferry was there at the time. I know Matty Ritchie never played as much then, but yeah, there was a decent dressing room, and it was probably a good time for him to make his step into professional football. To come into a dressing room like that. And but make no question about it, Charlie never feared anyone or anything like that. Charlie was Charlie, and everyone respected Charlie and got on well with him, simply because his performances on the pitch. But again, he was a massive team player. He would never let a teammate down. He used to run, he used to work, he used to fight, and he would never want a well done or a thanks or anything like that, because that's what he grew up in, and that's the bit I think's missing now, and probably in life now. I think a lot of people want a well done and a thank you, especially, like I said, I just left an under-18s game there, and there's coaches and other people, and they're saying well done to each other for running about, and I'm like, you shouldn't be told well done for working hard. That is the bare minimum of life.
Hey, well, listen, Paul, I'll tell you what. I mean, I think one of the things that helped Charlie was obviously the fact that, when things didn't really work out for him at Reading, and he's ended up tumbling out of the Football League, he's ended up essentially hog carrying for his old man on building sites. And I think anyone that's done any kind of manual labour like that, off the back of having an experience in football, that's probably a rude awakening, a welcome to the real world. Not that, a lot's made of the luxury lifestyle of footballer leads, but if you get my meaning, being a professional footballer and having to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get onto a freezing cold website and lug bricks around, I think if anything's going to stoke your desire, it's going to be that, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's that grounding as well. He's had that life that, let's be honest, I'm not speaking out of turn here. No one wants. Nobody grows up to be that, and he's sampled that and thought, no, do you know what? I want to be a footballer, and I think I'm good enough at it if I work hard. And he's a credit to any young player at that time as well. It's like he's took a knock, but he's not just felt sorry for himself and fell away for the game. He's went and earned a living, so to speak, and done other things, but still worked extremely hard, still believed in himself, and never took anything, and I mean anything, for granted.
Yeah, and to an extent, our previous as well, Paul. I'm gutted we didn't have a chance to have a proper chat with Brody as well. But I mean, if tonight it's been a thread throughout this conversation. and Darren Crook's still listening to us, which I'm delighted with. But obviously, Brody, prior to being a footballer, had a very, very sort of tough existence, serving His Majesty in the army, or Her Majesty as she was back then, and. Again, if anything's going to kind of, drive you on into the pro game, you certainly, if you've come out of the army and into the pro game, that's certainly going to be a rude awakening as well, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Listen, Big Brody's, I still speak to Brody regularly. He's a great big guy, and his story's another great story, along with the background of Charlie's story as well. With Brody, as you touched on there, was in the army and had a setback at other clubs, etc. And he's went and done really well at Bristol Rovers, got his move, deservedly involved in a title-winning team, and played a huge part in that. And another one that never took any day for granted. Great attitude, willing to run through brick walls for his teammates. So, yeah, listen, Brody's he's a great big guy, and he was an important part of the squad that year.
Well, listen, I mean, Paul, bringing this right the way back in a nicer circular narrative as I possibly can. We're talking about people that have had a lot of adversity before they've come into the game. You're still part of the game, but you've come out of your playing career, and now obviously, you've got your trials and tribulations with summer, which is, I guess, disorientating, upsetting, and all the rest of it. Just be sure that you talked about sort of. Charlie and the support that you all gave him, just be sure that, without meaning to sound overly cheesy, buddy, there are thousands of Swindon fans out there that are all stood behind you. And I really, really am certain that you're going to feel that in person when you make your way back to the county ground with us, when we do our various bits and bobs that we're going to be doing between now and the end of the season. Just don't lose sight of it, mate, when times are at its toughest. I know you've seen adversity. You've made a cracking career for yourself as a footballer and now as a football coach. Yet, mate, you don't need to convince us that you're a cracking dad. Everything we've heard from you tonight, mate, just speaks volumes. And but like, you're only human at the end of the day, mate. So when times are at their toughest, just remember that we're all there with you, pal, in spirit. So don't be afraid. Give us as regular updates as your family feel you can, buddy. And just make sure that we if there's anything that we can be doing for you, that don't be too proud to ask, will you?
No, mate, honestly, I appreciate that. I've obviously been in contact with you quite a lot and listen, the support has been unbelievable from yourself, from the show, from everyone involved at Swindon. Listen, I'm 300-400 miles away from Swindon, but I never feel as if I'm that far, if that makes sense. I'm always in contact with people round about the club. It's a club that, I don't want to sound cheesy either, that I love. Like, I've been there 3, 4, 5 years of my career. I've won 2 league titles there. Not always been ups. There's been downs as well. I've been relegated twice. So I've done everything in that club possible. I feel as if I know the club more than most. I know how the fans want players to play. I know how supportive the fans are, the network, and even the people behind the scenes. So, listen, I will never lose sight of the support that I have at Swindon Town, without a shadow of a doubt.
Mate, well, make sure you don't. Make sure you. Well, listen, we're as I say, we've got a couple of. We're purely at the point where we're dotting I's and crossing T's, Cad. So, as I say to everyone that's listening in tonight, keep them peeled, because we've got some really exciting stuff happening over the coming few weeks to announce. So really, really looking forward to doing that, Paul. Paul, just before you sign off, mate, is there anything that's anything else that you wanted to do? Obviously, we remind people for sure to be heading off to your GoFundMe page. For those that are just sort of tuning in now, maybe missed the earlier part. And obviously the Free Peaks Challenge that you will be doing. We're going to try and get as many of us behind you, sort of supporting you doing that as well.
Yeah.
Joining you on the walk or the climb.
The one that Paul and Ellis are doing, did you mean Hannah's?
Yeah, I certainly
Joe.
will want to do it.
I'll do the 3-point challenge.
You can drive us, Joe.
Okay, deal.
All right, that sounds like a plan. So, Paul, I mean, the stage is yours, Paul. Is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
No, listen, first of all, on behalf of myself, my family, my kids, the support has been it's difficult to put into words. It's been breathtaking, but at the same time, I'm not surprised by the support I've had from Swindon, because they've always been there through thick and thin for me. The love that I've had, the support, the donations, the simple things of sharing tweets, liking tweets, and it's been unbelievable. Just one more thing on the back of that: if anyone has any idea where I can get camper vans or equipment or anything like that, then that would be greatly appreciated, because I'm sure everyone understands it's something I have never done before, so I don't know what I need, when I need it, and how to get it.
And have you actually settled on a date, Paul, for doing the climb?
I'm going to go the 26th, so it'll be Sunday. I've been advised to go Sunday, start at 5 o'clock, because we're not experienced walkers. I've been advised to go up Ben Nevis at 5 o'clock, hopefully get down it by 11, travel those 5-6 hours during the night, do the Scaffold Pike roundabout, off the top of my head, maybe 4 o'clock in the morning, where probably still be a little bit dark, but not as dark as doing it at 1 o'clock in the morning, up and down that. So trying to get daylight walking in, I've been trying to work round about that, so that, as I said, we're not experienced walkers, so I don't want to get halfway up there and fall over a brick, and before I know it, I'm lying in
What
mass.
month is that, Paul?
February 20th, February 26th. So plenty. That was more for my brothers, to give them plenty of time to get fit.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone listening in that's involved in any kind of transportation or education, where maybe the school minibus can go missing for a weekend or for a few days in support of Paul, I'm sure there is wonderful PR for all of your organisations to be involved in what is an incredible superhuman effort, in fact, as Ellis testifies to. I mean, bearing in mind, Ellis is a boxer, fit as a fiddle, and he found it absolutely brutal, and Paul's already finding it daunting enough. So without meaning to put the frighteners up any of the walkers, all credit to you, and I'm going to do my damnedest to be with you, Paul, as well.
Yeah. Just finally, Harness, as well, that is genuine hand on heart, an open invite. There is an open invite to anyone who wants to get involved. If they want to just come and do Snowdon, if they want to just do Scaffold Pike, whatever it may be, if they want to do all three, it is an open invite. I have no problem whatsoever of people getting involved.
Well, there you are. And not being funny, but to any Swindon, Celtic, Bradford, Bury fan, get the opportunity to walk up a mountain with Paul Caddis. That is something you will remember forever. And I'm sure Paul will be more than happy to share a few stories in between catching a breath or two. So,
for sure.
That open fight that you don't want to turn down lazily. So you never know, Paul. I might have a word with my friends at the Low Strangers and my friends at Fools Rush In, and all the other Swindon Town fan-based. I'm sure Vic and the BBC as well would be more than happy to get behind this. Sean at the BBC, Vic, of course, from the Supporters Club. I'm pretty sure, Paul, that we'll have a good old gaggle of people joining you, if not on all three peaks, as you say, individual peaks as well.
Sure.
I'm determined to see you drive well over that fundraising. I'm sure
We'll all do it, and Joe will buy the beers at the end.
Happily.
Yeah, and Gabs is rich anyway, so Gabs will probably just sort of just get busy, Gabs. Write a big check for Paul.
No.
Joe, you can take the beers.
Why am I getting labelled with the alcoholic card here?
Mate, I'm glad it's not me.
You were the one that was out last night, Joe.
Oh, I went to a gig. It's not illegal. Calm down.
Yeah, grow up. He's allowed a gig. He's a big boy. Listen, Cads, you're more than welcome, mate, to hang on. We are literally just going to try and pick over the bones of everything yourself and Broadie and Charlie shared with us, and have some fan reflection now on obviously the cup competitions. You've got so much on your plate, mate. We are certainly not going to be offended if you need to drop off.
Yeah, I'm going to shoot off. I'm not even home yet. I've just stopped in the car, so I'm going to shoot off. But if that's all right, I appreciate everything, and I will definitely get back on, obviously sooner rather than later, and provide as many updates as I possibly can for everyone.
You're a top man, Cads. Open invite as always, pal.
Yeah, top man. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Absolute
Take care.
hero.
Enjoy your evening. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
Paul.
Nice one. Have a good one.
Well, gents, how about that? Like literally all three guests. every single one of them, you go, what a guy.
Can we re-sign them, all of them, please? Just get them all on a 3-year contract.
Just like you talk about, in all seriousness, like, I know, Charlie left under a bit of a cloud and things like that, but I think we all know there's unfinished business there with Charlie. And I think he's been very open about, how much that rankles, when he reflects on his career. He'd love to put that whole Wembley 2010 thing to bed. But that says a lot about how he feels about our club. That tells me a lot about his heart as a footballer. And Cads, you literally, you listen to Cads talking, 5 minutes worth of listening to Cads, and you know what sort of cloth he's cut from. And Brody as well. I mean, they're all three of them, like, amazing characters. You literally, you'd lose a limb, wouldn't you, to have those three back in our squad at the moment?
100%. Can I make a prediction on just off the back of that little piece of the three guests?
Yeah, go on.
I honestly, hand on heart, think we'll see Paul Caddis in a Swindon Town tracksuit in the dugout at some point in the next 10 years. And also, I think we might see Charlie Austin in a red shirt on the pitch before his day is done.
Well, can you imagine Charlie Austin and hot and crosses?
Oh, God, Chris, don't.
That really...
It's past 9 o'clock, so we can talk that sort of filth, but I won't last long. Please don't do it.
Well, look, let me put it to you like this. All right, it's an interesting dilemma, isn't it? If Charlie was to become available, whether or not you could see the gaffer going for Charlie Austin in our current lineup, because obviously you've got Luke Jeffcott, who is very much in the kind of Charlie mould, and obviously Luke at one end of his career, Charlie at the other end of his career, but. The one thing that I kind of start thinking about, if you go back to the sort of topic of this show, if Charlie Austin's in that side on Saturday, I think Charlie, with his experience and his attitude and his will to win, I mean, you've only got to see the kind of the footage of him snarling at his Australia teammates. Like, he's still got that fire in his belly. And I cannot help but think, if he was in that lineup on Saturday, if he was in that dressing room on Saturday, he's telling you home truths. And then that leads me to the bigger question about someone like Charlie. If you look at our squad, he is the kind of thing that we are missing. Like, he is, we are missing, I believe that we are missing that experience. That Charlie's got that nasty edge on the pitch as well.
Yeah, I agree.
He's not a thug, but he knows how to work himself. He knows.
Who do you reckon in the changing room is the voice? Because we've seen the video of Charlie digging out centre back.
Yeah. I was the same with Gladwin.
If Gladwin was playing on Saturday, do we collapse like that?
Nah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Nah.
Well, I just can't see anyone in the team that is going to be in the change room at half time. Imagine Charlie at half time on Saturday, 3-0 down in the pissing rain. He would honestly, I think Scott Lindsay would probably do well to get a word in edgewise. Like, he'd literally just take it over. And I think sometimes the best team talks at half time during a game come from the players.
Mm. Well, I think the conversation with, we spoke to, I don't think I'm betraying any confidences here, when at the end of the awards last season, we spoke to a few of the lads behind the scenes, the sort of senior pros, about how the dressing room management worked, and actually it was really, really quite clear that the likes of the Jack Paynes, they were the ones like really running that dressing room. That the gaffer came in, the gaffer did his bit of role, but the ones that were really running the dressing room were the likes of Jack Payne, Louis Reed. And I think I look at our current lineup and I just think you can't. I mean, listen, we've got to be respectful here, because at the end of the day, Charlie's contracted to Brisbane Roar. Charlie's just moved his family down under. Charlie's got a contract there. That's a massive project for him down there. But I think his contract's a 2-year contract. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Charlie come to his career at Swindon Town. And I mean, interestingly, there are gaps in their season that, dovetail with us still playing. I mean, he's just mentioned himself. He's on a 5-week break now. I appreciate we're going into the World Cup. But he's got a 5-week break now. We're still going to be playing football.
He can come in and replace Johnny for a month.
Yeah, well, in all seriousness, is that an opportunity? Who knows?
Look at what Landon Donovan did it when he was at LA Galaxy, and he went. Was it Everton 3 years in a row on loan during the off season for MLS?
Yep. So I can't help but think that a Charlie Austin that maybe comes back, scores a few goals, and then maybe goes back and competes again in Australia. I think it's only going to suit him. I mean, it'd be hard for him because of jet lag and whatnot. But hey, listen, he gave us a little nugget as Charlie always likes to do. I mean, he's absolute box office, isn't he, the guy? But yeah, to answer your point, yeah, Charlie Austin in that lineup on Saturday. Indeed, Ben Gladwin in that lineup on Saturday. I don't see the results going the way they were going. But I mean, listen, Chris, come back to you, mate, because you've done a lot of work on statistics and whatnot for you. A task of doing some analysis for us, and I asked you the question, and we sort of touched on the context during the show, which was if the league table tells us that is enough evidence to suggest we're getting on the managers back at the moment, does our 50-year cup record give us enough evidence that we should be getting on the back of some of our squad for woefully letting us down in cup competition? Because quite frankly, if the league shows that we're competitive and we do care, the cup record kind of says really it's just not a priority. None of them are a priority.
No, it doesn't. I mean, I don't know if anyone will be surprised here, but the last time we won a League Cup game was in August 2014. So,
wow,
8 years ago.
Jesus,
bloody hell!
Was that QPR?
That was Luton.
Yeah,
jeez.
Well, that's okay, Chris. So
actually, in that team, Ben Gladwin played. Is the only player still with us. 2 goals from Michael Smith.
Was it a penalty? The winner.
One of them was a penalty. Yes.
Yeah, I was there. I remember it.
Yeah.
That's mental.
So, I mean, that in itself poses an interesting question straight away, doesn't it? Because obviously, there is probably the most county ground is what happened in 1969 on League Cup final day when the Arsenal went to Wembley.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, really, we've got such rich heritage in that particular tournament. But as that record would seem to suggest, it just doesn't mean a jot now, does it? I mean, the fact is the game has changed immeasurably. The game is so much more money focused than the game that I fell in love with, like way, way, way back in the kind of early to mid 80s. It's obvious, right? I mean, the 3 lads that came on sort of told a different story, Chris, didn't they? But statistics don't. Well, I know you got lies, and statistics. No, lies, damn lies, and statistics. But mate, come on, it's kind of hard to argue it, isn't it?
Oh, it is as well. And obviously, I've just talked about the League Cup, but before that game last season against Man City, could you guess the last time we went to the 3rd round in the FA Cup?
Di Canio.
Wigan.
What season?
The 11-12. Yeah.
Yeah. So 10 years.
Oh, God Almighty! Yeah,
and those numbers. Well,
okay.
Facts don't lie.
So all right. So let's look. If we're going to go to these sort of extremes, let's cast our minds back to the mid to late 90s and our tumble out of the top 2 divisions and into the 2 basement divisions that we've just not been able to kind of free ourselves from since. Again, should we be at all bothered ourselves as fans about the FA Cup? Like, I think it was Charlie made the point. Like, okay, look, Man City was amazing, but Man City was amazing for very, very specific reasons. Obviously, they were the best team on the planet, of course. A packed county ground, of course. But the subtext, of course, was that our club had almost died. It was certainly, it was in a very, very, very bad way. And we've been able to, almost stare the oblivion of Swindon Town Football Club in the face and consider what life looks like without our football club. That was a very, very real thing. To only literally a few weeks later, be welcoming the best football team on the planet to the county ground. Now, I'm not sure I think there is it was as much about the context of that game as it was being, quote, the magic of the FA Cup. I hope I'm making sense here. And really, for the last 30 years, we've been trying desperately to essentially, solidify our position in the Championship. So should we really be bothered about 15 years worth of cup records when that's the real context here?
Yeah, but you also need to bear in mind there was a bit of luck with that cup draw. You could get to that round and just get someone in League One, just a top League One team, and get beat without getting that big team. So, I mean, I was out speaking to someone about this at the weekend, and I said, would you want to win that cup game or the league game the week after, and every day of the week league game?
Yep. Absolutely right.
Yep,
well, so I mean, Gabs, here, I'll punt this one at you, mate. Obviously, one of the things that's really frustrated us with both the FA Cup and indeed the League Cup is the fact that we've missed out on playing Ben Garner's Charlton Athletic. So it's not really kind of a valid argument, is it? Because the balls might have come out of the hat in a very different way if we've been in blah, 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 blah. But I think that's one of the other things that's really kind of frustrated people, isn't it? There's a little bit of unfinished business with a certain Mr. Garner. And it just makes it's that little bit of salt rubbing in the wounds, isn't it, when you see that?
It's always the ifs and buts, though, isn't it? Oh, if we got through, we would have got them. It happens all the time. It happens every season. Oh, we could have had, I think last year we lost. Oh, we could have had Fulham away. But it's always the case, isn't it, really, with these things?
The thing is, though, that's kind of like, it's sort of fate that we should have had Charlton, League Cup and FA Cup. Imagine Charlton at home with Wallacott, Payne, Garner. I mean, that would literally be, the atmosphere be unreal.
Yeah, Jack Payne has started scoring lots of headed goals.
Where's that come from? Has he got like springs in his boots?
Yeah, I've no idea. But he's bound to end up doing something like that to us at the county ground, isn't he? But Chris, whilst you were dissecting those statistics, were there any other gems that came out that can either make us feel better about the situation or indeed just prepare us for more misery in the future?
How many times we lose to non-league teams?
Oh, God almighty. Yeah.
Macclesfield,
Histon, Crawley,
Cheltenham,
Darlington,
Cheltenham,
Darlington.
Was it Dartford? No, Dartford was we beat, weren't they?
Dartford, yeah. But one of the other things, actually, and as it did come out of that, how shit are we at penalty shootouts?
When was our last penalty shootout? That was what?
Port Vale.
We're going to talk about that one.
Oh, forget. No, I'm going to leave it now.
At least you erased it from your memory, to
Oh, mate, honestly, it's gone.
Ladies,
when was the last one before that?
This is Tom Broadbent Lounge, your glass half. My personal view of Swindon Town. We're basically talking get by non-leagues and how crap we are at penalties. But hey, do you know what? I will caveat it.
Cambridge, I think, was before that last season as well.
Yep.
Rob Hunt.
But the league is looking beautiful, ladies. Please remember that.
But we're down to 6 now.
We're 2 points off automatic. I'll say that we can't. We're not absolutely in the abyss, are we?
No.
I was saying this about like the way Stockport played and pressed us. Like Tranmere is going to be a complete different game for them to go into as well, because we know what it's like with it's still Mickey Mount, their manager, Tom Clark at the back, and a team full of proper League Two shithouses.
Hemmings up front as well. Always scores against us.
It's a completely different challenge, which I think is so this Saturday's game is like so important. You've got to rub away the memory of Saturday, but also you've got to approach the game in a completely different way as well.
Yeah.
And I think the big thing is who's going to play centre back now, because obviously you weren't there, but like Baldry and Brennan, I'm not sure about them as a pairing.
The thing is,
what options?
That was choice.
But who else have we got?
Exactly. Harry's came on, and as soon as he came on, he gave away a half chance. So it's not...
Has he Ndolo played centre back?
Do we go back three?
I'd rather have him as a centre. I'd rather have him as centre back than left back.
He's played every other position. We may as well chuck him in left centre back.
Do we go back three and play Tracy left centre back with Baldry and Brennan?
I think you probably do, Joe. I think it's getting to a stage where you're going to see Devine come back inside, and you're going to see Fraser Blake Tracy played as a left-sided centre back, replacing Clayton. So you know, I can see that. I think, I mean, it is squeaky bum time. But I mean, the one thing about Harry's, you know, and I know people have been saying it's writing him off for the last like 2-3 years, but you know, you reflect on. I've forgotten who it was that was talking about Harry's now. I think it was Dave Hockaday was talking about him when he was I think it was when he was at Coventry. And they were saying that he was just an absolute Rolls Royce, and he's just kind of lost his way a bit. You know, I think we got to go got to get behind the kid. You know, there are people that clearly know more about football than we do from inside the game that say that he is a baller. But you can just, I mean, it just whether it's for me, it feels like or it looks like lapses of concentration for me, and that tends to come down to fitness. But again, it's what do I know at the end of the day? I just I mean, the thing is, we got him through the door, right? So the kid's got to be given a proper chance, like he's got to. Just our fans can be merciless. So just got to hope that if he gets his opportunity, he take it with both hands, because otherwise he's going to be in for an uncomfortable few weeks.
At the end of the day,
I think it's hard for him.
First team football at Coventry. He's played at Swansea. He's played at every single international youth team level at Wales. Like, there's clearly a footballer in there.
Yeah, exactly that, Joe. Exactly that. And I think that's the thing that our fans have got to remember. Like this is a guy that's got like international honours at all levels apart from senior, and he's played for some big clubs as well. With all due respect, to our side, Swansea are a big club. All right, Rovers are tin pot, but
he's played in the Eredivisie as well. I've just seen.
Yeah, so the kid's got it about him. And he's got an absolute. I think it's his left peg. He's got a wand of a left peg when he chooses to use it. So
I think, was it Tom Clayton that said that Keane has scored the best goal in training this season on the show?
Yeah, I
think it was. Yeah.
So so there you are. So I think the other thing that you sort of touched on there, Max, as well. I mean, we've got to give Stockport some credit, and I think one of their fans came out and made a very good point this week about when we played Stockport earlier in the season. They were still going up through the gears, reacclimatising to life back in the Football League, and their feelings were that over the last sort of like 4 or 5 weeks, they've really, really kind of found their feet, and they were fancied at the start of the season. I think it was Brody, wasn't it? He was talking about the size of their budgets. They've got some good players on their books. So, maybe we're being a little bit, we're getting a little bit above our station by sort of, looking down at Stockport. Let's remind ourselves that at the start of the season, Stockport, one of the teams that everyone was saying that they're going to be in our division, what Wrexham are in the, in the conference.
Look at their squad. Like, their squad is insane. Like, I think it's Madden and Wootton up front who are scoring goals fun at the moment. That was their 4th win on the bounce. Callum Camps in midfield is no joke either. They've got a good lone keeper from Liverpool. And as they've just shown against us, they've got a really deep squad. I think that they're going to make a massive resurgence now.
I agree.
Down to
They'll be the Rovers this season.
Yeah, they're 14th on 22 points. They're only 6 points off the playoffs. And from what my mate was telling me, who goes every week, is that they're looking like they did last season when they went on their run in the conference. So
before we played them, I don't think they conceded a goal in 6 games. Let's make that 7 games.
My point of view is, I think if we didn't get that result on Mansfield, I don't think there'd be as much as negative press over that result as there has been. I think almost the result at Mansfield has kind of made everyone go, right, okay, we're going to a good side here away. We got a good chance here.
I think it's the case as well where we've played our best 11. They've made changes. And on paper, it's kind of like, okay, we've been smacked, and we're playing our starting 11 against essentially, as obviously Tom mentioned earlier on, their resis.
But a bunch of their resis who are up for it. Like, you could tell from the start, they pressed us immediately. There's one of the extended highlights packages where you see it, that they're instantly putting us under pressure whenever we're in possession of the ball. So, and we couldn't cope with that all game.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier in the show. Like, I think it's probably much harder than we give them credit for in terms of playing the reserves or playing players that are fighting for places. Because as Max just said there, like out of the traps, they're absolutely going for it because they've got something to prove to the gaffer, and they're like, they're working their socks off. They're trying to prove that they're worthy of starts in the league, and it's probably a case of in a league game, you often find the first 10, 15 minutes, other than Mansfield, because the first 10, 15 minutes of Mansfield was mental. But teams grow into a game. It's sort of cat and mouse to start with. It's a different beast when you've got players that are, they're out there. They're all being monitored in terms of how far they're running or the effort they're putting out physiologically. Like they're trying to be top of those charts to get into the gaffer's mind for Saturday.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Also, I'm pretty sure Stockport played the Tuesday before.
They did.
Yeah, I think that might help as well, just in terms of intensity and training and kind of players that we're going to play on Saturday, kind of maybe have known before Tuesday they were going to be playing.
Yeah, it's a very good point, Gabs. I think the other thing to consider as well is that if you think of the two teams and you think that Stockport have basically put a bunch of lads out almost like they're string, it's if you're shown the door at Stockport, you would imagine that you're going to be falling fairly quickly into non-league. If you're shown the door at Swindon Town, let's say, I mean, I'm stretching it a bit here, but if you're shown the door at Swindon Town, I'd like to think that turning up at a club like a Stockport is still an option for, the next stage of your career. So I'm just trying to think of the psychology of players that are basically being told, right, you've got to go out there and, you're playing for your futures here, lads, and the levels of intensity. Do you want to stay in the Football League or not? I think if you're having a similar conversation, if you're at Swindon Town, I think you'd possibly still be fancying yourself, finding yourself another club in League Two. So again, I think when you add all these bits together that we're talking about and we're exploring, I think we always try and find a glass half full solution for most of the depression that a Swindon Town defeat will bring. But I think taking on board what Cads and Broady and Charlie have said about the cup and post cup and all the rest of it, and then some of the stuff that we've been absorbing tonight, I think we've got it. I don't know. I don't think we should. I think we should certainly be going back into the weekend with our tails up as opposed to going there feeling the worst, getting on the boys' backs after 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'll say this about Stockport: the pies are amazing. Would highly recommend.
I heard Sam Parkin go on about the pies as well. Leon.
They had a chicken and ham pie, and it was just filled completely. It was so good. Swindon needs to get on board with the food because it's just not as good as a lot of places you go to.
Oh, see, now listen, let's not start another debate because we can talk for it. I have been very, very happy with the food since the change around. The burgers at the County Ground I find are great, particularly if you're buying them from where I'm buying them from, on the corner of the Arkles and the Town End. And a big fan of the pastries as well.
The pasties.
So the pies are key. The pies are key.
Nah, I like the pasties for me.
The sausage rolls are awful. The
pasties,
worst
though, we're in the West Country. We've got to have pasties, haven't we?
Yeah, here's a sausage roll, Joe, you plastic.
Oh, mate. Honestly, it was I'm pretty sure they gave me a vegetarian one. It was not sausage.
But Joe, I bet you've had better food at Farnborough than you've had at Swindon.
100%, mate.
We need to have a word with the voice to get this food sorted out.
Yeah, well, listen, you leave the voice alone. That boy's task is to pour a good Guinness, and he's doing a fantastic job at it. I don't want to don't overcomplicate his drink. Right, but listen, in the interest of time, a little bit more any other business. We'll park the cup for another year, sadly, and we will bid it adieu. However, a little bit of loan watch. Who wants to go with this?
Up the chip.
Indeed. So it wasn't all, well, I'll say we parked the cup. It's not quite parked the cup. Obviously, whilst
looking on the bright side of the cup, that's all.
Yeah, we're looking on the bright side of the cup. So whilst we were there saluting and applauding Broady and Sir Tom's performance for South Shields on Saturday, hats off to a Sunday, the Saturday performance from Chippenham Town, where Harry Parsons and Harry Minton did the boys proud, Joe, didn't they?
Definitely did, mate. Yeah, I mean, my phone buzzed. I had the Chippenham notifications turned on, and originally Sky Sports said it was Harry Parsons that had scored.
Yeah, that's right.
And I mean, we on the group chat, we were all going mental over it. You know, Chris was sort of baying for me to get my tattoo done for Harry Parsons scoring in the FA Cup. Obviously, it turned out it wasn't him that scored, but I mean, the guy that scored, his name evades me. I can't remember his name, but
Winks,
go on.
I think.
Yes, it was. What a goal, by the way. Anyone that hasn't seen the Chippenham highlights,
It was back heel. It was a cheeky little back heel, wasn't it?
there's a back heel volley
Yeah.
into the far corner. And I mean, if there's any way to win a giant killing, it's with that sort of goal. I mean, fantastic. And I know Harrison Minturn said recently in the Town podcast with Sam Parkin, the last half an hour was just pure, you know, Lincoln pelting balls into the box, pure quality, quality in abundance, and also chances flying for Lincoln. And they obviously he had to work hard, and Chippenham did it. They ground out the result, kept a clean sheet against Lincoln, which is no mean feat. I mean, absolutely fair play to them. Couldn't ask for a better result, really.
So here we are, obviously talking up Kieran Harries, etc., etc. When the elephant in the room is the minnow goat. He's just down the blinking road, keeping clean sheets against League One opposition. Like, surely, it's only going to.
I think
it's only another 1 or 2 performances away from a recall, isn't he? If like our problems at the back continue, and he's back in the side, because I mean, Joe, you and I both said we commentated on the Woking game pre-season when Minnow came on. And both of us said, like, stopped in our tracks, like, physique, he looked big, like, he looked like he'd actually, like, stacked up. He looked really composed, read the game really well. You know, I mean, there's no doubting that kid's got a big future at Swindon Town. But as much as I want him to do well at Chippenham and enjoy his cup run and so on and such like, you know, I make that point, you know, if things don't quite go to plan with the selection on Saturday, you can see that, you know, Minnow might not get the opportunity in the next round, mightn't he?
Yeah, no, definitely, mate. I think, you know, in the interest of the progression of his career, it probably is better for him to stay and play regular first team football at Chippenham. But as you say, if the injury woes continue at Town and we are sort of looking at, you know, the bare bones of centre back, you could do a lot worse than bringing him in. Obviously, we've got Min Goat Senior listening in live. So, you know,
Andy, listen. Whilst you're listening, just you remember this, pal. You know who puts food on the table, Andy. That's all I'm. And it's a red shirt, not a blue one. So
he's got a big future. He has got a big future, and he's one of those players that you kind of, I think, ideally you want youth team players coming through to the first team, especially in that position of centre back. You'd love to see him here in 5-10 years' time with an armband on his left arm.
He needs to play games, though. I wouldn't want him to bring him back to sit on the bench.
No,
if he's
going to
do that,
yeah.
Dave's chipping him to play.
Yeah. If he's getting a good rhythm in at Chippenham and getting regular game time, then keep him there as long as he's getting that. I'd rather not see him brought back to just sit on the bench and be a just-in-case player.
Yeah, that's completely my argument. If we get to the point where we are really, really down to the bare bones, then yeah, bring him back. But it is better for his progression and better for his, you know, his experience of the game to be playing first team football. And I mean, the National League South, I watched a lot of it. It's a good league. There's a lot of good teams in there.
His loan's there to the end of January as well. So leave him there till January, then assess at the end of it. And to be honest, by the end of January, McDonald and Clayton should be back anyway. Hopefully, they should be back early to mid-December.
Well, listen, I honestly do believe that if things don't quite go to plan at the weekend defensively, and if we end up being all at sea as we were at the weekend, don't be at all surprised if you see him back in a red shirt sooner rather than later. Would just be my hunch. So obviously that takes care of Parsons' nose and the minnow goat. But then we've had a few departures, and all of whom are turning heads. Should we start with the most recent departure? So Oscar Massey, a couple of days ago, has disappeared off, and he's arrived at Wantage and arrived with a bang. with a goal in the 2-2 draw against our old pre-season nemesis, Brinscombe and Thrupp. Interesting move that for Oscar Massey, isn't it? Interesting move. Who knows anything about Wantage, apart from the fact they're a bit too close to that horrible yellow mob up the road for comfort?
It was a bit sneaky, though, as well, because we didn't know that he'd gone there until they announced their team for that game.
But ultimately, look, the kid's paid to score goals. He goes up there, scores on his debut. Bob, thank you very much.
Celebrating the Joe Perm.
Yeah, indeed. So, and then we've got Harvey Fox and Anton Dworzak have taken their young selves just down the road to Highworth. And Dworzak has gone and done a Massey and scored an absolute beaut on his debut and was getting rave reviews from the Highworth faithful. So I think interesting because Dworzak's clearly a baller. I spoke to Peaks, I think it was about a year ago, about who's coming through, who should I be keeping an eye out for, and he mentioned a couple of names to me. But they are names that have been in and around the squad. But interestingly, the first name out of his mouth was Dworzak. And in the action that we have seen him have for the first team in the Papa John's Trophy, he's not looked out of place. But fair to say, the last three names that we've mentioned, a slightly different set of circumstances to Messrs Parson and Minogoat. Oh, don't go all quiet on me. There's your cue. Who wants it?
I can't even say his name. Dworzak as well is probably one of those guys who's got a big reputation, but actually going out and playing men's games is really what he needs.
Yeah, I agree. I think if we can see Dworzak in pre-season next year doing what Harrison's done and putting timber on, really sort of filling into his body, mate, I think the technique that lad's got, he can honestly, he's got every potential to play League Two football and above. Really, he's expressed.
It's the same with.
Sorry, mate. We chatted to him as well. He's really driven in terms of wanting to play for Swindon Town. He's quite level-headed, and I think the ability that he's got, he can go far.
Joe, I'll go a step further. Talking about level-headed, he's. Pete, I heard an interesting interview today with one of Jude Bellingham's old coaches, and they described him as having a very, very old head on very, very young shoulders. I found that when I've spoken to Dworzak now on 3 separate occasions. Each time I've spoken to him, what struck me is just how mature he is for his age. So it doesn't surprise me at all that people are marking him for, a little bit of a special future. I think I'll be so bold as to say this. I mean, where people are asking questions about the future of Louis Reed in a Swindon Town shirt beyond this season, I think we should be looking at potentially answers within our club. And all the while you've got Saidu Khan able to perform as a central defensive midfielder as well as he does. And we've already seen glimpses of Dworzak as a potential understudy.
We've got youth team players like Sonny Hart as well is impressive. You've got obviously Harvey Fox. We count Oscar Massey as a first team player. We've not seen him in the first team, but on paper, that's a very, very good young player. Anton Dworzak, that's another one. We've been told we've got people in our group chat that are involved in the club. The under-16s we've heard are very, 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 very impressive. I think
one of our biggest supporters is absolutely excited about that our youth team.
Yeah. So listen, I think the lovely thing is we're sending boys out on loan. Unlike a couple of months ago, we sent lads out on loan and they find their way to the county ground sort of fairly quickly, and it was raising a few. Here we've got a situation where we've got back down out scoring goals, turning heads, right? Perfect. I think, I don't know whether you want to call this last but not least, but we've got the small matter of a current Swindon Town first team player representing his country at the World Cup. And we are not talking about we are talking about some backwater. We're talking about Wales, aren't we? But no, so those Welsh listeners, apologise for the offence. But no, Johnny Williams turning out for Wales at the World Cup. You tell me about that. Unbelievable achievement. Now, for me, this casts my mind back to a what was I, 13, 14-year-old preparing for Italian 90, Alan McLaughlin going out in a shirt. It's got that feel to it. How tough are you?
I'm wanting a Gabs song for this. A Gabs singing the Johnny Esther song.
No. I thought you were going to get me to sing a Welsh ballad then.
That's what I thought you were getting at. Oh, we don't need that.
If he scores against England, then it's never going to happen.
I'm going to Wales versus Iran, so I might send you a clip of me doing a Welsh ballad then. No.
Bread of heaven.
In all seriousness, when Johnny Williams dropped up at Town Football Club, I think we all stood there like stunned as he was being paraded around the pitch. But at the same time, we were all like, well, we've got a clearly here that's made of glass. You know, we got enough of them on the books, and people very quickly defaulted to kind of like the cynical view of Johnny Williams and what he's going to bring to the table. But let's be honest about it. Johnny Williams has been physically and medically like fantastically managed by our medical department. Obviously, that's been a huge investment at the football club. You know, the medical team. Whatever they have been doing behind the scenes with Johnny in terms of helping him manage his body is working right. He's played more games than he's played at any other point in his career. You know, he scored recently for Wales. Everyone kind of basically saying that he's there because he's the vibe meister. I think there's a little bit more to him than that. But can he have an impact at the World Cup was what I was going to pose. And who wants to answer that question?
I think he can, but it will be in small doses.
So if he comes off the bench and scores in the first game, Gabs, can you see him start in the next?
No, because I think his role in that team is to just come on and make something happen out of nothing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of how Ghana used him in the start of last season as well. I think he's really suited to that role because of the way he can just breeze past players.
Yeah.
It's a strange squad selection though for Wales. We've got, was it Joe Allen, who's been injured for Swansea's last 10 games, and he's in the squad. Like, I think there's 2 or 3 players in there that are currently fairly unfit. I think Gareth Bale's another one.
Yeah, my mate's Welsh, and he described it as pretty much getting the 2016 Euros band back together, really.
Yeah, get Hal Robson-Carney back with a shirt on.
Yeah, but I mean, Joe. The thing is, Joe Allen on his day has secured himself a multi-million-pound move to Liverpool, and do you know what? Did all right when he was there as well. So I think at the end of the day, it's the highest possible stage you're going to get in international football.
It's one of those, isn't it? You're not going to see if Messi or Ronaldo's got a knock. I'm not comparing Joe Allen to either Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo, but
yes, you are.
He's one of their better players, and it's like if Ronaldo's got a knock, are Portugal still going to pick him in their 26-man squad? Probably.
Mm-hmm. But listen, for the younger ones amongst this panel, I mean, Chris, I'll lean back on you here. You'll remember Italia 90, Alan McLaughlin going out there, turning out against England. It's that all over again, isn't it, with Willow?
Oh, exactly. I mean, it's great to see him there, but it's a funny thing as well. There's a little bit of you that, well, I don't actually know if there was part of me that hoped he wasn't in the squad, but there was a little bit of me that hoped we could still had him. And it's a funny situation just because he's been so good this season.
Yeah,
but
it's a win-win.
It was great to see him at the World Cup.
For me, it's a win-win.
Yeah,
we get the money for him, and also say Wales don't go that far. He comes back, he's fit, he's fresh,
and scores a hat trick.
Can I say as well, we get money for Jojo Wollacott going too.
We do. And the thing is that
do we?
Seriously?
Yeah, we do, because it's within the last 2 years for the money you get.
Well, I don't like Ghana for obvious reasons, Nigeria, but I'll take that.
We're getting 11 grand a day for Johnny Williams at the World Cup. 11 grand a day.
That's $11,000. So
and then we're getting 4,000, I believe, or 4.5 for Jojo.
Well, that's a signing. Especially if Wales can get through the group. I don't know what Ghana's group is like. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but that's a decent chunk of change we might get from them too.
Can we claim for Massimo Luongo as well?
No, not within 2 years.
Yeah, nice try.
Yeah.
But listen, I mean, I guess just to round off, we send Johnny out to Qatar with our fondest best wishes. I mean, he has been a quite superb piece of business from Messrs. Chorley and Garner back in the day, and I mean, this season he's really pulling up trees, guys, isn't he? I mean, I think I believe we're seeing better football from Johnny Williams this year than we did last year, for sure. Would you agree?
Without
definitely.
a doubt, absolutely, without a doubt.
He's playing without fear this season.
Yeah, and I'd say to anyone that hasn't read Nancy Frostick's piece yet on The Athletic, definitely worth a read. Goes in depth, really, with an interview with Williams about basically his last few years at Swindon, the Netflix documentary as well. It's really worth a good read.
Can you post the link for us, please, Gabs?
Yeah, sure.
Top man.
Yeah, but it's with The Athletic, so it's behind a paywall.
Oh, boo.
I'll post the free version that I should have sent to you earlier, Chris, before we made you screenshot everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Otherwise, you get me 15 episodes.
Listen, we are really munching up the night, and I appreciate you. Just judging by our live listener numbers, most people are going to be certainly once again listening to the re-recorded show. But Tranmere at the weekend, guys. Let's do nothing more, nothing less than have a nice prediction out of each of you. So, Joe, I'll start with you, pal. What's your feeling? You feel free to give it in long form. I'm not just going to ask for the score.
I'm pretty confident. I think, like I said earlier on, I think we'll go 3 at the back. So if I was to say a team, I'd probably go Bryn, Hutton, Baldry, Brennan, FBT, Devine. I'd start Reed because I think Khan had a struggle on Saturday. And then Gladwin, Williams, Jeffcott, Wakelin, 2-0 Town, 2 goals from Jeffcott.
Oh, interesting. A clean sheet off the back of the weekend. That is brave thinking, but we'll take that. Where's your heart at, Chris?
Well, one question as well before the weekend is backup goalkeeper, because Conor Brand looked like he was in some serious stress on Saturday in the warm down.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting you raise that, because nothing's been said since the weekend, hasn't it? And it's not every day. For those of you that aren't aware, Conor Brand, during the post-match interview with Scott Lindsay was quite obviously distracted away from Andrew Hawes, and that was because Conor Brand was screaming blue murder on the pitch, and then being stretchered away with a suspected knee injury. But I guess we'll find out more tomorrow, because we should be expecting the presser tomorrow, shouldn't we? So
yeah, the presser at 3 p.m. tomorrow.
But
so we'll park that for now.
But here, Chris, here's a question for you then. Seeing as you brought up Conor Brand, are you just as comfortable having Mildy on the bench as you are Conor Brand?
I don't know who the youth team keeper might be. So that would be the question. The youth team keeper versus Mildy for me.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the youth team keeper, I'll admit.
Bring back Lee Camp.
Yeah.
yes, indeed.
Yeah, let's not.
Well, listen, from my point of view, I think I would prefer the experience of. I think I personally would prefer the experience of Mildy, because I think the young to have a young keeper who is so young that he's not even. I believe it's Jack Copeland, but I don't believe that. I can't remember who was it. I think it was Wardy, wasn't it? We spoke to earlier in the season, and Wardy didn't even know his name. So, like his surname, that was only knew him as Jack. So, I guess from that point of view, I'm kind of thinking, worst comes to the worst, like it's a big ask for a very, very, very young kid. So, yeah, I don't know. Not that I'm answering.
It's probably unlikely he's going to need to be involved. So maybe having Mildy there is until he integrate him into the first team squad before you bring him in.
Yes, exactly that. That's pretty much where my brain's at.
I think we should play Ian Dolo in goal. He's played everywhere else. May as well chuck him in goal.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. Ellis,
hey, Hannah, you didn't challenge him on his pronunciation like you did me last week.
Well, no, I'm quite happy with Ian Dolo, to be honest.
Hey, we need to ask him. Everyone says it different.
You gave us Ian Dolo. That's a very different kettle of fish.
Anyway, 2-1.
Cabs, where are you at, mate?
I think it could be a bit like last season where both teams last season at home anyway, where both teams just cancel each other out. They're very awkward away from home. Got a point at Stockport a couple of weeks ago. I don't know. It's gonna be close.
Yeah. So come on.
1-0 Town.
1-0 Town again. Another clean sheet. People are feeling pretty.
We love a 1-0 at home.
All right, Max, where are you at, mate? Where's your head? You feeling confident, bullish?
Yeah, I'm feeling. I think I'd basically go with the same lineup we had, except for bringing Blake Tracy in at left back, putting Ellis back in midfield. I'd probably go 2-1 Town, but it's a tricky one just because of the way they're going to play. I think it's going to be They're going to be a difficult team to break down. So it'll be interesting to see how we use our sort of front three. We can get at them. Maybe we can craft a few chances.
But another nod for Fraser Blake Tracy slotting in as an emergency in inverted commas back. Yeah, I'll go with that. And like you, Max, I'll come to my prediction in a couple of seconds, but I can't see us I can't see us having a shutout. What about you, Ellis? Where's your head at, buddy?
I think it could go sort of one or two ways. I think if we get an early goal, I think we could go on to win 2-0, 3-0. If not, I think we'll just sort of scrape a 1-0 win.
Interesting. All right. Well, I'm going to go for. I think the weekend's going to be slightly bonkers. I think it's going to be 3-2 Town. But I'm literally going to have no nails. We don't need to worry about hair, but I'm going to have no nails by the end of Saturday. Sorry, and neither are any of you lot for what it's worth. So, bring your bring your best brown paper bags to keep yourself as sedated legally as you possibly can in a public place. I think it's going to be a little bit topsy-turvy at the weekend. I can see us going 1 up. I can see us going 2-1 down. But then I can just see us throwing caution to the wind because I think you'd see the crowd getting on the players' backs. And I think the players would just go, look, to hell with it. And I think we've got enough goals in our team to be able to turn around a 2-1 scoreline. So I'm going 3-2 Town, coming back from 1-0 up, 2-1 down, 3-2 winners. And yeah, selections wise, I'm just echo what everyone said. I think you're going to see Fraser Blake Tracy back in the mix, but as a centre back, I could possibly see us going with the 3 at the back if he brings in Harry's, just as that extra little bit of security. It's going to be interesting weekend. Well, listen, look, it's 11:30. We've had 2.5 hours. What have we graced you with tonight? Well, we've had Sir Tom Broadbent reflecting on his heroics for South Shields at the weekend and how glorious it was to hear Tom happy, smiling, enjoying his football at South Shields. And just huge congratulations again to you, Tom. And thanks for coming on, buddy. We all enjoyed watching your exploits on the BBC at the weekend. We had Paul Caddis. Blimey, listen, if you... even the most hard-hearted of individuals won't have been able to have listened to Paul Caddis and reflect on everything that he had to say, both as our former skipper, but more importantly, as a husband and a father. The journey he's been on over the last 3-4 weeks, excruciating. Delighted to hear that little 10-year-old Summer, Paul's eldest daughter, is in a much better place. And Paul is going to be doing the 3 peaks challenge, and he's put the challenge out to all of us as well to go along and join him, whether that's on all 3 peaks or one of the peaks. And I, for one, certainly like the idea of climbing a mountain with our double league winning skipper and trying to help that gentleman raise as much money as possible. Please do go to Paul Caddis's Twitter account and look on his bio for links to his GoFundMe. We have been tweeting it tonight. Please give generously. Paul really does appreciate it. And if you missed him, please listen back to what he had to say. And if you don't have a tear in your eye by the end of it, then you're not human. And then finally, of course, the inimitable Charlie Austin. Brilliant. Lovely to have Charlie on again. And all I'll say there is, listen to Charlie's closing comments. it's good to dream, right? It's always nice to have a dream. But listen, the Sir Tom Broadbent Lounge is a Swindon Town fan podcast. It is independent in its views, and they do not reflect those of Swindon Town Football Club and indeed Sir Tom himself. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Caddis, can I just say one more thing quickly?
Yeah, go on.
Just that I think I speak on behalf of everyone, really, that our thoughts just go out to Alex Fletcher and his family, really, after the incident at Bath yesterday.
Oh, of course, yeah, Gabs. Literally, so I literally had that tweet today. I didn't. It hadn't even landed in. I was completely unaware of it. But yeah, the guys. Yeah, well, it raises all kinds of questions about the safety of grounds, doesn't it? And you know, this. I mean, it sounds like a really, really unfortunate accident. But I'll tell you what scared me, Gabs. I used to play Kent League football. I lost count the amount of times that I've had sort of similar run-ins where I've ended up leaving the pitch and landing and sort of colliding with things around, furniture of the ground. But is there any more updates, Gabs?
No, nothing yet. Just that they're trying to stabilise his condition. The family won't.
I think he is in a stable condition, isn't he? He's still critical, but
yeah, he's in a stable but critical position.
Bath have got to get rid of the concrete boardings around the pitch. That's just not on.
Yeah, well, we're. Hey, listen, I'm sure it'll all come out in the wash. All I will say is, as I've said, as someone that played a relatively half decent standard non-league football, it's not the first time that we've seen stories of people. I mean, and also in the league games. I mean, you look at the new LED setups. You see sort of players going into those. How many times do you see people sort of like hurdling barriers and ending up sort of bouncing into the town end? I mean, when it happens, it's very, very rare. It's really unfortunate, but I wish, like as you say, Gabs, our best wishes go out to him and his family, and certainly we look forward to hopefully more positive news in the days to come. But listen,
before we go, Hannes, as well. Sorry, obviously we've gone from a very serious subject there, and our thoughts are with Alex and his family. Before we end the show, though, we have got a reminder of the Draw to Win competition. Last entries for the 1st of December. So obviously draw your favourite Swindon Town player or staff member or favourite fan. Send them in to us or hand them into the club shop as well. The prize is the mascot package for the home game against Wimbledon on the 10th. So the draw will be made on the 1st. Obviously going in off of a serious subject there. But just a reminder that the competition is still running.
But listen, I think there is nothing better than to leave us with smiles on our faces than to just consider. Everyone's aware of the little fella that's led down the Chelsea players' tunnel, and he goes to shake the hand of Steven Gerrard and then does the old finger on the nose, wiggly fingers. I would very much like the idea of somebody doing that to our former ponytailed beauty, Josh Davison. Josh will be very welcome back at the County Ground, I'm sure. But just imagine that, standing in the players' tunnel, watching your youngster give it a little bit of that. And if you do, make sure you get it on camera and tweet it. But as I say, that is us for the evening. It's been an absolute treat having you. Another mammoth show, 3 fantastic guests. Look forward to catching up with you all at the weekend, where we'll be providing live coverage from the County Ground as per. But as I said before, my thanks to Joe, to Chris, to Gabs, to Max, to Ellis, to the crafty General Darren Crook for coming on. Absolute pleasure to hear from Darren, and of course, sincerest thanks to Paul, Caddis, Charlie Austin, and Sir Tom Broadbent. We are the Tom Broadbent Lounge. Take good care. We will catch up with you very soon.